GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Hello, good evening everyone and welcome to the GTR 24H Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. We're making our way into round 2 of the championship, heading to a circuit that some people might be unfamiliar with, all the way down right at the bottom of the continent in South Africa. It is a Kyalami itself. I am Vishal and I am joined in the commentary booth by Alex Goldschmidt. Alex, it's a pleasure to have you alongside me, and we've got a few GT cars raring to go as qualifying will be getting underway momentarily. And there's a few quick drives. So if we just cast our minds back 2 weeks ago when we were all the way in Belgium, not Spa-Francorchamps but Zolder, we had a thrilling battle really for our opening round of the season, and there was 3 names that everyone needs to keep their eyes out on. Or not just for this race, but for the entirety of the season. Our race winner, Ahmed Hosseini, Pierluca Amato, who finished in second, and George Boothby, who came in third for Yassi. And the big thing for me, and I think the big talking point, Alex, that we have to be looking at and, well, talking about for the remainder of the season is the fact that Pierluca Amato and Ahmed Hosseini are in the BMWs, whereas George Boothby is in the McLaren. And this battle between two different manufacturers will surely play a huge part over the course of the season. And what we saw 2 weeks ago was exactly that, the track getting faster and faster over the course of the session, and the times tumbling all the way. In the end, it seemed to be a two-horse battle between Pierluca Amato and Ahmed Hosseini. Ahmed yet to join the server, but hopefully he will in the upcoming few minutes. And between them, there was very little time. I think the most surprising result was the fact that George Boothby wasn't with those three. It was actually Alessio Cataneo who was able to take that third place spot, and come the race start, he jumped Pierluca Amato into turn one, and he held a huge train of cars behind him at Zolder for so long. In Zolder, notoriously difficult to overtake. Here at Kyalami, maybe Cataneo will find it a bit difficult to keep people behind him. Yeah, absolutely. And well, our first driver to put in a quick lap time is Pierluca Amato, the reigning champion, the man who finished second 2 weeks ago in Zolder. A 1:41.245 is the benchmark from the Italian in the BMW. And you talk about overtaking opportunities, Alex. One big overtaking opportunity that we actually saw last year in the first season of the Sprint Series. We saw a fantastic move, I believe it was from Manuel Biancalilla, either him or one of the Euronics drivers, and that was down into Barbecue. Absolutely sent it from a mile away, got the front of the car in, down the inside, job done. But I do believe we have the standings available that we can show to everyone on your screens as well, just to give a quick reminder as to how the championship looks at the end of, well, just the one round so far at Zolder, which, as we mentioned, Ahmed Hosseini won from Pierluca Amato and George Boothby in third. Yeah, absolutely, and we're getting a few more drivers completing their laps, a few more drivers on hot laps. One driver that I'm keeping an eye out on right now is Alessio Vacirca, and Vacirca, actually, last time around, he qualified all the way down in P12, but at the moment, he's currently sitting in 6th, and he's on a fairly good lap as well, so we'll see how far up the table this lap will take the Italian. Apparently we've got a few audio issues. Alex, apparently you might be a bit of a ghost to everyone and no one can hear you. They can see your face moving, but apparently no sound is coming out. I can definitely hear you, so I feel very bad for our viewers at home because they're missing out on a lot of information. Now, Alex, you are here, so this gives you an opportunity to reintroduce yourself and reintroduce the wonderful circuit that is Kyalami.
Yes, indeed. Has been operating since the 4th of November 1961. It celebrated its 60th anniversary last year. It currently is actually owned by Porsche South Africa. And one of the biggest things I've noticed tonight, how many Porsches do we have on the grid, Yusuf? Nul point, monsieur. Nul point. But we, as I was alluding to earlier, we've got a whole host of machinery. We've got Munich's finest in the form of BMW. We've got McLaren. We've got the Cavallino Rampante Ferrari being represented, courtesy of Bonacorsi in on the YouTube. It's really good to see that a lot of people are getting support in terms of it, and actually riding on board with Amir at the moment in the wonderfully new car, that has just joined and is going to be going into battle at the Rolex Daytona 24 hours at the end of this month, and actually in a couple of weeks' time, the BMW M4 GT3 run by Team RLL over in IMSA. But you can just see how interesting it is, you know, hard on the brakes from about 200 kilometers an hour in 4th gear through Loicott down to 1st, then turn it in, nail the apex, allow the car to drift naturally to the right so you can nail the apex going through and sort of sweep through wide on the apex going through, into mineshaft, but Amir Hosseini currently sitting P13. Well, he hasn't set a respective lap time at the moment, but he can't be too greedy on the curves, particularly through crocodiles at turn 13 and cheetah at turn 15, because as I was saying to you, but obviously the viewers didn't hear me, that you could end up like Kit in Knight Rider, I mean 2 wheels like ski mode.
See, I would love to be able to follow up on that reference, but I have sadly never seen the wonderful show or film. I don't even know that is Knight Rider, so I have to apologise on that regard.
I'm going to have to educate you, my learned young friend.
Oh no.
Don't worry, it's pure 80s gold, not any of the dross that followed it. But Amato's still leading the way. Hosseini's up into P8, nearly 1.3 seconds off the pace. So Hosseini's got a little bit of time to find, but the track temperature is starting to climb. The server time is at 10:11 a.m. We've got 18 minutes left, and Pierluca Amato in the car that we're actually looking at the moment, the number 36 M4 GT3, is definitely having a really good run at the moment, and is a quarter of a second ahead of George Boothby, who has just improved. Boothby was just over 3/10 behind, but now is a quarter of a second adrift. Bonaccorsi in the Ferrari in the 475 from that's Team Ballas, is currently sitting in P3, and there is a huge gap between Bonaccorsi and Boothby. It's 6/10. So Boothby, I've seen this from George before, where he's wound up the wick up to volume number 11, and he's gone for pole position, as Alessio Cataneo from Team Ballas is currently 14th at the moment, having not registered a lap time, but the Italian could very soon be giving us a representative of what we could see from another BMW. We've got 4 M4 GT3s on the grid tonight.
4 BMWs, as you mentioned, a few McLarens as well. Another McLaren that I'm interested to see the performance of is the number 93 of Ledge Racing, currently being piloted by Sandro Van Sant, teammate Christian Sendel. We saw them in what was effectively now become the preliminary round at Monza, and then we sadly didn't see them racing last time around in Zolder. So this is effectively their first race. Back at Monza, they were right in the mix of things and qualifying relatively well, but here at Kyalami not performing too well so far in qualifying. I spoke to Sandro a little bit before the race, and he said that they didn't have too much time to prepare. So this qualifying session, not only is it a chance for them to put the car as high up as they possibly can on the grid, but it's also a chance to learn the track to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, and if you're going to do that, you've got to learn on the fly pretty quickly. Cataneo, P3, 7/10 off of the pole sitting time at the moment, which is 1 minute 41.060. This circuit here at Kyalami, 2.814 miles, or 4.529 kilometers. And we're getting into, I think, the halfway point of this qualifying session. Cataneo in that wonderfully liveried BMW goes a little bit wide, coming through the exit of Sunset and into Clubhouse at turn 7. And the cheers are coming in on the YouTube chat for Amir Hosseini. And King Phoenix says, I guess Amir can get close to the 40s. Well, if Amato's currently in the low 41s, it's dependent on how willing Amir Hosseini is to push, because he's currently still 1.265 seconds adrift, down in 9th position, because Cataneo is already trying to light up the time screens, whether it's green or purple. Your guess is as good as mine, Yusuf, but George Boothby is effectively the McLaren meat in a BMW sandwich right now in quali.
Well, George Boothby a few tenths down, but we're all waiting to see when Amir Hosseini completes a lap. Currently, Cataneo is about to complete his lap as he comes out of the final corner. Will this be an improvement? It is indeed, and takes him ahead of Ceredi and up into P3.
So currently at the moment, Arto leading the way on a 1 minute 41.060. George Boothby exactly 2.5 tenths adrift in second position, 1 minute 41.310. Cataneo Cataneo's gotten quicker in that previous lap, so took a tenth off it. Now it's just over 6 tenths behind, but then I think it's the duo of Luca Princi and Francesco Cenedi now round out the top 4 places. Cenedi is actually, get this, 5 1/1000ths off of P3. But Amir Hosseini on cue, pips George Boothby, goes to second position. So at the moment it is a Munich front row lockout, and Amato in the meantime, Yusuf, has gone into the high 1 minute 40s, 1 minute 40.995, and Amir Hosseini is just under 3 tenths of a second adrift right now.
Well, you say that. I'm looking at George Boothby. He's improving by 2 tenths on his lap. He's got about 40 seconds remaining so far. Amir Hosseini still pushing as well. He's a tenth up, so we might be seeing the times getting even closer between the top 3 currently. 3 tenths, just over 3 tenths separating the 3 of them. And we'll see how much closer it gets. But George Boothby currently 2 tenths up on his personal best.
Yeah, it's always the case that when we get into this stage of qualification, you know, we're around 12.5 minutes to go, and this is where the drivers are going to be at the lowest amount of fuel possible. The tyres are going to be at full operating temperature. Brakes will be on operating temperature as a result of that. Boothby's come out of Ingwe, the final corner here, so I'm just wondering, and he's just gone I think he's just gone second. Yeah, he's gone back past ahead of Hosseini. So George Boothby has done an absolutely sterling job. So the biggest thing is how is Amir Hosseini going to respond? Because these two know each other very, very well indeed. As Amir Hosseini lights up the brakes going into the pits, and oh my goodness, Boothby 4 1/100ths of a second behind Pierluca Amato in the battle for pole position, and Hosseini rounds out the top 3, covered by 3 tenths. Seredi from Renegade Sim Racing Workshop in the Aston Martin currently sits P5. And the Aston seems to be a pretty good unilateral car in terms of whatever circuit you put it on. This 4 litre twin-turbo V8 engine, producing around about 700 Newton meters of torque from its rear axle. Can be quite handy. A lot of circuits here on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform. It's one that the drivers tend to like, and can also use ballast pretty well too.
Now we're seeing Dario Barzaghi as he is pulling off on to the grass. That is on the exit of the pit exit, and that man is Amir Hosseini. With 11 minutes remaining in qualifying, finds himself 3 tenths down on the pair that is Pierluca Amato and George Boothby, currently sitting on the provisional front row of the grid. But can Amir Hosseini have anything to say about that? I think he might have a little something in store.
Yeah, if he's got an afterburner on the back of that BMW M4, I think he'll be very, very lucky indeed. But the thing is, you can't discount Amir Hosseini. I've seen him compete in a multitude of different ACC platforms and championships and one-off events where, like, literally, I still remember the days when Amir was... his steering wheel used to be on a desk and a single screen setup. Seriously, the guy's an absolute legend. You know, it just goes to show that you don't always have to have the top-line sim racing equipment to be competitive, as long as you know...
Alex, you can't say that. I've got that firmly lodged in my head as the only reason that I'm not a pro sim racing driver right now, so I'm not going to be able to accept that point.
Don't you start. I don't take part in sim racing, so I've got I can't give any excuse or tell any story apart from when I go to Simply Racing Milton Keynes. That's my only time when I get behind the wheel of a sim.
Well, Ahmed Hosseini is making his way through the final corner. You can see that lovely late apex he's taking as he tries to get on the power as early as possible. Every 100th counts in this lap as he makes his way down through the kink and towards a Crowthorne, the first breaking point of the lap. And well, let's see how much up or how far up he is on his personal best through turn 1, using up loads of curb, and again all of the track on exit. This is a tricky corner through turn 2 because you've got to pull the car back over to the right as you make your way into Barbecue, the second longest straight of the circuit, and now make your way down towards Sunset. No sun in front of him at the moment, no sun setting either. He'll have a beautiful clear run, just a little left, I think actually maybe almost flat it would be, but it does have to dab onto the brakes. They're back on the brakes as he makes his way down into Clubhouse, and Ahmed Hosseini is a 2 tenths up on his personal best.
Yeah, now down into the S's, the left at turn 8, down the dip here into the right-hander at 9. There's a couple of cars up ahead, so this might give him a little bit of a draft opportunity here, going through down Mineshaft. Hard on the brakes from 4th to 1st as the McLaren gets out of the way of the number 82 BMW M4 GT3, and now Hosseini runs the car as far wide as he dared to the right hand side going through Mineshaft, which is turn 12, taking it about 5th gear, 230 kph. There is a yellow flag out on the track, now briefly retracted. There is one of the other BMWs just up ahead, but Hosseini coming through in towards Cheetah. No greediness on the right hand side through the curbing. Oh, back end stepping out a little bit whilst he was trying to just coax the car through, rotate it through and go the 16th and final corner. Third at the moment for Amir Hosseini, and he goes and now he's gone top of the times, 1 minute 40.772. What a job, and he was 3.5 tenths behind. He's just, yeah, like literally, he's just, he found half a second in that lap, I think, close to it.
Yeah, it was a very quick lap. In the end, 5 tenths is what he found from a 41.2 to a 40.7. And Ahmed Hosseini has essentially just said to Pierluca Amato and George Boothby, the ball is in your court, fellas. What you got? What can you throw at me? Back in Zolder, Pierluca Amato was within a 10th, practically 100th of Ahmed Hosseini. Can Pierluca Amato recreate that brilliance that he was able to show? But this time, maybe pip Hosseini for pole. And you can see the sector times. Sector 1 and 2, fantastic from Ahmed Hosseini, but sector 3 where he's losing just a little bit of time. That being said, Alex, we're talking the smallest of margins between them in each sector.
Yeah, I mean the third sector between him and Amato, Pierluca Amato, the distance between them is literally less than an A4 sheet of paper. It's like 62 thousandths of a second. And that's how close it can be. I've seen qualifying sessions on ACC where there's been probably, I've had it where drivers have been separated on countback because they've been on exactly the same lap time. That's how ridiculous it is, as Alessio Cataneo, who's currently sitting at 4th in qualifying. The BMW M4 now back in the pit, so looks like it's been on the air jack, so possibly a couple of setup changes, maybe a change into fresh tyres as we're back on board with our provisional pole sitter. And Amir Hosseini has gone quicker still. He was on a 1 minute 40.772. He's just gone 62 thousandths faster on his previous attempts. So with less than 6 minutes to go, Amir Hosseini has fired the warning shot across the bow of everybody else to say, right, here's my 2 cents. What have you got in your pocket?
I don't quite know what's more impressive, Alex, the fact that he can pull out this kind of lap time or the fact that he's able to do it consistently. George Boothby is on a lap himself, and George Boothby was a 10th up. He's hovering around the same time as what he did previously. And remember, George Boothby, current best, a 41.03. For Pierluca Amato, who's in second, it is a 40.93. So a 10th up between the pair of them, and we could likely see George Boothby jumping ahead of Pierluca Amato with this lap. Small little correction of the steering wheel as he makes his way through Newcup and now down towards Mineshaft, completely flat. Get that steering nice and smooth. Pull the car back over to the left-hand side of the circuit as you jump on to the brakes down into Crocodiles. Well, there won't be any crocodile snapping at him as he makes his way through. Lovely and neat as he makes his way into the penultimate corner. Just one corner remaining. Hard onto the brakes down into Ing. Doesn't quite use up as much of the curb as I think we saw from Ahmed Hosseini. And will this be an improvement for George Boothby as he comes across the line? It's at 41.027. It's a few hundredths quicker, Alex, but it's still not good enough to beat Pierluca Amato and get him onto the front row of the grid.
That's exactly 8 1,000ths that George Boothby has just improved that lap time by. That's how finite it can be on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform. But there's a lot of drivers now out on circuit, all apart from George. Well, everyone's out on track because this is where you want to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time. And if you can get a bit of a slipstream, going down from Barbecue at turn 5 through to Sunset, there's no harm in getting that toe from turn 11 down through to Mineshaft at turn 12, and then also coming out of Ingwe, going across the start-finish line. So realistically, this is crunch time. This is where we're going to see how the starting order will be for the second round of the GTR 24H Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series for Season 2.
Absolutely, and looking further down the order, we've been talking a lot about Ahmed Hosseini, Pierluca Amato, George Boothby. I think it's only fair that we talk about some of the others a little bit down the field, because from P5 to P7, less than a tenth separating those three. Konstantin Romanenko currently sitting in P5 for the number 48 car, ahead of Francesco Ceredi and Marcello Bonacorsi. So the Ukrainian ahead of the two Italians, all of them are renegade drivers, Keen Ballas drivers, so in amongst their own company as things currently stand.
Yeah, that's always going to be the way where you're going to have teammates trying to do what they can, and there may also be that old adage of working together a little bit, just to try and make sure that you get the lap time done at the correct moment. We're on board with Dario Barzaghi in the number 9 Team Ballas Esports, well, in the 9th place car, and that's the number 8 Mercedes-AMG GT3. Now I'm wondering if that is actually the Evo version, where it's got the more aggressive headlights as opposed to the bigger ones that we've got. Mattia Traversa now in the 14th place BMW, currently sitting or coming out of the final corner through Ingwe. Everyone's giving Ahmed Hosseini all the cheers and welcome support. I don't seem, I mean, we've had one for Romanenko a little bit earlier on in the YouTube chat on the broadcast, but we're coming down into the crucial final 90 seconds of this qualifying session, and the track has not evolved as I might have thought it could have been, because we have seen it before when the track goes from fast to optimum. As soon as it hits optimum, everyone is going to be flying around this circuit, and I think Amir Hosseini, he's being strategic. He's now going to leave it right until the last gasp. Can he actually increase that gap over Pierluca Amato and increase it from 0.217 seconds? George Boothby is exactly a tenth of a second behind Amato going into this last 60 seconds. Right, Hosseini, I think now is going to... Right, keep your eyes on this lap, because Hosseini has now buried the throttle. Forget hammer time, it's Hosseini time, as the Iranian now makes his way through into the kink on his final lap in qualifying here at round 2.
And the coolest thing is, Ahmed Hosseini is going to be the first one to cross the line. After Hosseini completes his lap, George Boothby will complete his lap about 10 or 5-6 seconds later. In fact, if you look at the mini-map on the right-hand side of your screen, you see that little dot just behind Hosseini? Well, that is George Boothby. Pierluca Amato will be starting his own lap in about 15 seconds' time. He's going to be able to start just before the clock hits 0. So we're going to be in for a nail-biter of an ending as well, Alex. And I'm also keeping my eye out on the old Ballast versus Renegade battle. We've got a lot of drivers from both teams competing. I do need to apologize. I said that Chiretti was a Ballast driver. He is actually a Renegade driver, the only Renegade amongst the Ballast Pigeons, if you will accept that at ADH. But all eyes on Ahmed Hosseini right now as he begins to make his descent down the hill through Lukop and down towards Mine Shaft. And I'm looking at the Delta right now, Alex, and it's dead even.
Dead even indeed, but can he pull something out of the bag? Because Ahmed Hosseini making his way through into turn 13. The Crocodiles now through the slight left-hand sweeper here at 14, through into Cheetah. Someone's gone a bit wide in front of him, and Hosseini now comes through Ingwe as the timer hits 0 in qualification out of the final corner. Hosseini pedal to the metal.
He's up.
Will he increase the gap? This is going to be interesting. 1 minute 40.645 from the Iranian. That's a brilliant lap. George Boothby not able to muster any higher than P3, as Pierluca Amato will make it an all Munich front row lockout. Mattia Vacca in the Bentley crosses the line, and Bentley Continental starts P8. Alessio Cataneo will start P4. I did see that Corti in the 33 car, that's one of the Renegade Sim Racing work group cars, finished 8th at Zolder, will start down in 12th. Actually started 11th last time out at Zolder for the first round of the championship, and has a similar 6th row start, but it's on the outside of row 6 this particular occasion.
Pierluca Amato completed his lap and he was able to take a P2. But we don't have much time, so we're going to throw to a quick commercial break. And when we return, we will be having the start of round 2 of the ACC Sprint Series here on GTR 24H.
The GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon-neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back, folks. We are about to head in to the race for our second round of the ACC Sprint Series here at Kyalami. And it is Ahmed Hosseini, Alex, who has put himself onto pole position for the second time running, and is once again ahead of Pierluca Amata.
The biggest thing is, can Ahmed Hosseini, this particular occasion, have the fortuitous grace to be able to convert it from pole position to a victory? Here at a circuit like Kyalami, over a 2-hour period and a rolling start, it's going to be a tall loss because he's got Pierluca Amata alongside, and it's an all-Munich M4 GT3 front row. And the server time now, 6:04 p.m. It's going to be an interesting one because the track has turned optimum and the drivers are ready to get racing.
2 weeks ago, Pierluca Amata started in second, but he lost that second place spot into turn one. Pierluca Amata, you got to be careful. You don't want to be ahead of Ahmed Hosseini when those lights go green. You don't want a drive-through penalty. Look at Cataneo in P4. It's literally a 4-car race down towards turn one. The lights have gone green. P5 and P6 are side by side, but we're keeping our eye down into turn one. Pierluca Amata has a look to the inside. Cataneo looking for the outside. George Boothby around the outside of the BMW and up into P2, and it's deja vu for Pierluca Amata, who finds himself down into P3 on the opening lap of the race.
What a sensational move. George Boothby putting life and limb virtually on at risk. Brilliant move from Boothby. You know, he had to wait and try and sort of anticipate what Amato was doing there, but he just nailed it perfectly. Cataneo in the number 25 BMW running at the top 4 positions, and then we got the Cavallino Rampanti, the 475 of Bonacorsi, not too far behind. So already Hosseini's eked out about a half-second gap over Boothby, but Boothby on sheer merit and temerity put in an absolute doozy of an overtake on Amato, and I think that might have caught Amato unawares, but however Amato's got straight back down, calm, composed, and now is going to go for it and going through into the crocodiles. That BMW looks to be so well placed on the brakes.
And the McLaren does tend to struggle a little bit on the brakes relative to the BMW. Something else to bring up, and I know this is early stages to mention it as well, as what we're seeing here. That's a Wojtek Dvorak down in a P12. I think he has dropped a position from where he started in the McLaren as they make their way onto the start-finish straight. But take a look at that. Alessio Cataneo is having a look. That's George Boothby. What's happened to George Boothby? Because it is Pierluca Amata who's back up into P2, and Alessio Cataneo having a little look down towards the inner side. George Boothby again on the outside through turn 2. Can he hold on to the position? I don't quite know, as that's still George Boothby on the outside of Cataneo up towards the left-hander. That is a barbecue. And George Boothby down into P4, so it must have been a mistake into the final corner, Alex, that has cost him, but George Boothby is not going to let this get the better of him. Still hot on the tails of Cataneo as he searches for a way back through into the podium paying positions.
Yeah, whether there's a mistake, possibly an unforced error, maybe even some pressure coming from Cataneo. But to be honest with you, the way that Boothby was trying to keep that McLaren on the outside of the Jux K-Suite, that's turns 3 and 4. So it's a right, then it's a left. It's quite deceptive in that respect, but Boothby's going to get a run now. He's going to get an attack opportunity at Cataneo as they go through Loicott, now through turn 11 and heading towards Mineshaft. You can see the acceleration absolutely mighty down here. 5th gear, 140 plus miles an hour. Down into what is going to be 2nd gear, through into the crocodiles. A little bit of correction there for Boothby. And one of the good things is that with the temperatures being slightly slightly colder. The track temperature 30 degrees as opposed to 32 during qualifying, and considering the time of day that the server is on at the moment, Yusuf, we're going to see that the tyres are going to last a little bit longer in terms of the strategies, but also the cooler air is going to help with regards to performance as well, because pretty much all of these cars, apart from the Mercedes, they're all turbocharged vehicles. However, you have colder air, it's denser, it goes through the radiator, it helps with the air-fuel mixture, and the cars will respond accordingly as we get into, I'm thinking, a bit of a nighttime finale.
We should be seeing the later or the early stages of dusk once we get to the end of this race. You can already see that it is not the brightest, and maybe some of those orange rays of sunset already beginning to approach. But when I was taking a look at George Boothby, it seems that George Boothby has his car set up a little bit differently from what we saw to Cataneo. Maybe that's a case of McLaren versus BMW. But Cataneo, you could definitely see some of the understeer really affecting the BMW on corner entry, whereas for George Boothby, especially through the offer camber, or I should say the adverse camber corner of the penultimate corner, starting to see a bit of oversteer, four-wheel drifting this early on in the race, and you can tell that George Boothby pushing. But look, Pierluca Amato has the fastest lap of the race and is on a bit of a mission, a little bit like George Boothby is on a mission, as he's going to send one down the inside. Alessio Cataneo is going to leave a room, but George Boothby, I think, has got the job done. They brush doors, door to door, as they make their way through the right-hander, still side by side, neck and neck, down towards the final corner of Inga. And is George Boothby going to get the move done? Alessio Cataneo made his car so wide as Zolder, and he's going to make his car equally wide here at Kyalami.
I mean, I've got to give Boothby credit where credit is due. You know, to get through and be on the inside at Sheeta. We're going to have a look at the replay here. You can see going through into Ingwe, Cataneo up the inside, takes a bit more curving. Boothby's got no other option but to run the car wide out of the corner. That'll help him come back onto the circuit without a difficult rejoin. And again, Boothby right up the inside through turn 5 at Barbecue. You can see that Boothby is really sort of trying to gauge where the weakness of the BMW is around the circuit, and he's also keeping an eye on what Cataneo is doing in terms of driving style. But Boothby's got to watch himself here, because Bonaccorsi in the 479 Ferrari is right up the exhaust pipes of the McLaren. One of the biggest things that, for those uninitiated viewers that are watching with this, thank you very much for joining us here on GTR24H.org. The biggest thing is when the version 1.8 update came through on Assetto Corsa Competizione, there has been a bit of a change in terms of the driving dynamics of a lot of the vehicles. They've sort of like had a bit of a bopping, so to speak, as in balance and performance adjustment. And that's where characteristics of cars will change. Now, George Boothby, you know, is no slouch at all. But it's about getting your head around it, and it's going to take you a few hours, maybe a few competitive races to do that. But already Boothby, again looking strong, coming through Ingwe as we're about to complete lap number 4, and the gap between first and second, Amir Hosseini ahead of Pierluca Amato. The gap is nearly a second between the pair, but Boothby hell-bent on getting past Cataneo to retake third place at the moment.
And you know how we joke, Alex, about how Pauli Ahonen is the Kimi Räikkönen of the Endurance E-Racing World Championship?
Oh, well, here we go.
So
first time of the season you mentioned that with me and you and me on comms. Oh, Boothby nearly up there again through the Jukes K sweep. Yeah, go on. You were saying Pauli Ahonen.
I am going somewhere with this. So 2 weeks ago, when Chris Buxton was in the comms booth with me, we dubbed Alessio Cataneo the Jarno Trulli of the Sprint Series, the moving roadblock himself. And Cataneo did a fantastic job of keeping drivers behind in Zolder, and he's doing that again here at Kyalami. And we brought it up in qualifying, we brought it up at the start of the race as well. Would he be able to do it here in South Africa? A lot more open of a circuit, a lot more overtaking opportunities present, and Cataneo is doing a fantastic defensive drive right now.
Yeah, considering he finished 5th last time out at Zolder, he qualified P3. So I would imagine that Cataneo is looking to get a few more points in the bag in comparison with what we had a couple of weeks ago at Circuit Zolder in Belgium. A fantastic circuit in its own right. You know, we're less than 10 minutes in, and the battle lines have clearly been drawn. But Amir Hosseini is just trying to pull away at the moment and trying to get a gap between himself and Pierluca Amato in the early stages. So at the moment we have a BMW 1, 2, 3, but Boothby is menacing large in the rear view mirrors of Alessio Cataneo in this battle for P3. They're coming down through into the King Turn 1 and then heading down towards Crowthorns. Now if Boothby's got enough cojones is the term that I'm going to use here. It's one that I do like using when you do know that someone's got the stones to go for something, and Boothby's one of those characteristic drivers. He's held a little bit back in reserve, so I think he's just waiting. And also, one of the other things with a game such as Assetto Corsa Competizione, you're going to have to deal with that dirty air, especially if you're within 5 to 6 car lengths of the car in front. And that's another thing that can unsettle the balance of the car, that can sometimes cause you to over-rotate in corners. Sometimes you have to use the person in front as a bit of a yardstick in terms of braking reference points, and that's going to be quite crucial when we get into night time, because dusk is fast approaching. 6:14 p.m. is the time on the server, and you know, even though we're 10 minutes into this 2-hour race, Yusuf, nothing's quite over yet until we get the checkered flag.
Well, Pierluca Amato holds on to P2. He's falling back from Ahmed Hosseini, who's just punched in a 1:41.2. Meanwhile, further down the field on your screen to your right is Francesco Cereddi, who's running in P7. And he's got Kostiantin Romanenko right in front of him, and Mattia Vacca just behind him. What is a three-way battle for P6. In fact, Romanenko right behind Marcello Bonaccorsi as well. And the pair of them only a second behind Boothby and Cataneo. Cataneo really just keeping everyone tucked behind him, and surely we'll be seeing some overtakes soon, as we see Cereddi with Mattia Vacca close behind, not quite close enough to look for a move down into Crowthorne, but I'm sure Mattia Vacca will be keeping his eyes peeled for an opportunity if it does present itself.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be sooner rather than later, Yusuf. You can't always predict how one driver is going to react to a particular situation, as we're now seeing this ongoing fracas between Cataneo and Boothby. And I think Boothby might be playing a bit more of a strategic game here, but I've said that before and he's proved me wrong completely. But George Boothby now again, I mean, look how close they are going through into the S's through turns 8 and 9, and Boothby's got this real good awareness, and when he's been on absolute form, he has been pushing. And one of the things that he's also got to consider now, so I've just seen that the gap between Amato and Hosseini has increased from 1.5 to 1.7 seconds in the battle for first and second position here. Boothby might be playing a strategic game. Now, obviously, these cars can run for about an hour with a full tank of fuel and also a set of tyres. So it could be dependent on whether Boothby might decide to do a little bit of fuel saving, and that might prove to be a good dividend if he's going to try and do an undercut.
I'm really glad you brought that point up, Alex, because it's something I did want to touch on, which is the McLaren versus the BMWs, because last time out at Zolder, we saw that the McLaren, it seemed that during the pit stop phase, was able to gain a bit of time over the BMW, so whether that was because less fuel going into the car, which is my main assumption, I honestly thought George Boothby would be in a fantastic position if he could stick with Amato and Ahmed Hosseini, but with Cataneo in front of him, this is making things very difficult. You can still see Pierluca Amato and Ahmed Hosseini making their way in the corner of your shot, and that'll give a bit of hope to George Boothby, but Ahmed Hosseini has been absolutely flying. He was matching the times of Pierluca Amato. They were setting 41.4s, and then Hosseini just brought it down, 41.2, a 41.1, last time round a 41.3, and he just keeps on taking a few tenths out of Amato and quite a few tenths out of Cataneo and Boothby. And Boothby, he's got to decide, does he push, does he try to find a way through as quickly as possible, or does he just decide, okay, I'm going to sit behind, maybe save some fuel, maybe save my tyres, so that once Cataneo pits, he can really put the hammer down and try to get the overcut to work.
Yeah, it's Yeah, because I can now see that going through turn 11, Boothby went a little bit wider than Cataneo coming out of the corner. So, because one of the other things that when you're in the dirty area of another vehicle, the temps on the engine are going to start to skyrocket, because rather than getting nice, cool, fresh, dense air into the front air dam and into the radiators and everything like that, as King Phoenix has nicely said on the YouTube chat, very good and fair defending by Cataneo. 100% agree. It might be the Cataneo train at the moment, but he's doing a fantastic job keeping Boothby at bay. So there you see at the moment Amir Hosseini leading by nearly 1.85 seconds ahead of Pierluca Amato. Alessio Cataneo keeping George Boothby at bay for the final step on the virtual rostrum. Bonacorsi in the 475 Ferrari is in 5th place, and then Romanenko has been doing a fantastic job in the number 48 McLaren, but Sandro van der Sande is trying to get the upper hand on Wojciech Dvorak, yeah, Dvorak at the moment is keeping ahead, so the two McLarens really intertwined into an inter-brand battle, so to speak. But Boothby once again now starting to push and is trying to put the pressure on to Cataneo, but Cataneo so far in the first 15 minutes of this 2-hour race Cataneo drifts a little bit wide coming through Loikop. Boothby is trying to get alongside him. This is the run through down to the mine shaft, but Boothby has to back out of it because that could have ended up messy.
But could Boothby look for a move into Crocodiles? He's going to break earlier, look to get the exit, and he's right on the tail of the Cataneo as they make their way down towards the Cheetah corner, almost completely flat. And Boothby a bit too far behind to have a look down into Ing. But Boothby consistently looking, just waiting, praying that Cataneo makes a mistake and allows Boothby to find some way through. But so far, the defense of the Italian has been solid as a rock. Well, okay, maybe not quite as solid as a rock, because Boothby has found opportunities, but he just hasn't been able to fully, what's the term? Fully exploit them. There we go.
Yeah, and Kyalami, in the local Zulu native language known as My Home. Well, it is the home for several drivers, the likes of Sheldon and Kelvin van der Linde. Van der Linde now being partnered with returning 3-time DTM champion René Rast at Absportsline in the Audi R8 this season, which is rather exciting. But Cataneo again goes defensive, this time going through the left-hander here at Clubhouse. He's done a fantastic job. A little bit of a dust kick up there, I think, possibly from Boothby, from the right rear tyre going into the approach, coming out of Clubhouse and into the S's. But again, that McLaren is looking rather menacing. He's just waiting to exploit any mistake that Cataneo might make. But at the moment, the Italians still doing a great job. But again, Boothby just carrying so much speed coming out of turn number 11. They're heading down into Mineshaft, and the BMW seems to have the legs on the McLaren ever so slightly, but Boothby launches it, and has he outbraked himself? He has. Boothby literally has gone off track, off piste. Oh my! Boothby had to try. We're going to go to a replay here, so you can now see coming down the hill. So Cataneo is just going to go right. I'm going to go brake. I'm going to brake, and Boothby. Oh. I think he lost it under braking, because that is something you don't normally see from George Boothby. That was
So we've got this. This is also a replay. So this is rewinding time, as I like to call it myself, and we're going to see exactly what happens. So I think George Boothby wanted to sit behind, got caught out by Cataneo braking early, was forced to send it down the inside, and realized that if he tried to brake, they'd make contact. So he just sent it down the inside to try to avoid an incident. So let's just see what happens here. Brakes, yeah. No, he doesn't lose it under braking, doesn't he? Oh, that is not a pleasant contact with the barrier, is it?
Well, no, the back end stepped out to the left-hand side, so was there an issue? That's the thing. Because that's uncharacteristic. Unless there's been a lag spike, if there's been an issue with the brake pedal. That car normally would not do that under George Boothby, and that's weird. That's very, very weird indeed. So I'm sure we'll find out. And now, look, he's got two cars right up his back bumper. So now Boothby in 4th position. Cataneo is probably going to be the best part of at least 3 seconds up the road. We'll make that 5.3 seconds. Because Bonacorsi, and also there is Romanenko. Oh, Bonacorsi round the outside. Mamma mia is all I'm saying on that one. And that's through Crocodiles. Bonacorsi's going to keep it pinned round the outside through the next right-hander. He's nearly on rubbing paint. He's just clashed with Boothby. And Boothby still keeps it pinned round the outside through Ingwe. Wow, my goodness me, Bonacorsi could have had George Boothby's number right there and then, and that nearly opened the door for Romanenko.
Yeah, maybe Romanenko will still have a look at Bonacorsi as well. They make their way through the kink and down towards the Crowthorne. Will we see Romanenko's front end throwing it down the inside? And the answer is no, we do not. You can also see Ceredi in the back of your shot as well. There's a 4-way battle for P4, and George Boothby certainly has some damage on that McLaren from clouting into the wall through Crocodile. We don't quite know what happened, whether he had a bit of a failure, whether he tried to send it down the inside, whether he got caught off guard. We'll have to wait maybe until the interviews. That is, if George Boothby can manage to get it on to the podium steps. Otherwise, we'll have to be hearing Pierluca Amato's, Alessio Cataneo's version of events as we ride on board with Marcello Bonacorsi as he makes his way through the S's and up towards the Lucop.
Interesting comment by King Phoenix, thank you very much for this, says that Boothby accelerated again to avoid a collision. That would explain the back end stepping out to the left hand side as it did. So that just goes to show the calibre of George Boothby. But now Bonacorsi is closing in through, and again Bonacorsi is finding this sweet spot with the Ferrari. He's round the outside again, going through the Crocodiles, but this time Boothby plants the car exactly where he needs to and goes, right, you tried it once bitten, twice shy, and you can see that the front end of that McLaren is looking rather second-hand from that incident a bit earlier on. So Boothby's now driving with the wounded animals, so to speak, and now he's just trying to do a bit of damage limitation. Of course, yes, he finished 3rd last time out at Zolder, but never say never. There's a bit of toing and froing. That was from the Aston Martin of Ceredi in the 23, looking all over the back of Romanenko for 5th position as they lovely shot there going through. That is Crowthorne turn 2, and then turns 3 and 4 the Jukes K sweep into the left-hander at Barbecue. And one of the nicest corners on the circuit, because you're going to see a bit of low-lying sun if you get a particular camera angle, which we might get now, because you get sunset as all. Romanenko seeing that Bonacorsi was running at a different racing line going through Clubhouse, but now forget the Cataneo train, it's the Boothby train we've got right about now.
I was about to say, Boothby has become a Cataneo himself. He spent so much time behind the Italian in the BMW that he's now taking a leaf out of his book and trying to keep 3 hungry drivers behind him. A Ferrari, a McLaren and an Aston Martin right behind Georgia Boothby's wounded McLaren. And as you mentioned, that McLaren's seen better days. I'd still love to have that McLaren in my garage any day of the week. As Bonacorsi looks to see if he can find a way through on Boothby. This time he can't look down the inside into Crocodiles. That's been his go-to move in the past couple of laps. And now, I was thinking for a second Romanenko was going to send one down the inside of Bonacorsi into the final corner, but not this time round. And we're still seeing, even here at Kyalami, the drivers struggling to find a clean way to overtake one another.
It all comes down to that dirty air and the slipstream once again, because you've got that aerodynamic instability. The back end is not going to be as planted. You know, you've got the tuning vanes at the side of the, you've got the front splitter, then you've got the tuning vanes, which help with the aerodynamic flow over the car itself, and then these big rear wings on these vehicles. The minute you get into the dirty air, you get, unfortunately, as I said, that instability complex. It's not that people want it, it's that they don't want it. They want nice and clean air. as Bonacorsi again. Boothby runs a little bit wide this time, manages to cut in front of the 475 Ferrari from Team Ballas Esports. Boothby managed to get through there by the skin, well, basically by the clear coat on that McLaren 720S GT3 ahead of the Cavallino Rampante. But again, Boothby showing just how good he is at defending. He can attack very, very well, can George Boothby, but one thing that people haven't seen that often is his defensive prowess, and he's driving with a damaged car. That front split is not at its optimum. The bumper's a bit askew, so the aerodynamic efficiency is not quite there, but he's done a fantastic job so far as we're getting towards funny enough, Yusuf, we're getting towards the first quarter of this 2-hour race being completed in about 6 minutes' time.
Well, it feels like it's been about 6 minutes so far. The action has gone by that quickly. And Alex, I've got a little question for you. In half an hour's time, when George Boothby pits, do you think he, A, fixes the damage on his car and takes 10 seconds to do so and risk losing, well, 3, maybe 4 spots in terms of track position? Or does he keep the damage on the car and says, you know what, I'll defend with this damage?
It's a bit of a 50-50 on that one. But as the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Tom Christensen would say, you want your weapons sharp. And the thing is, if that car's at full operating capacity with the damage repaired, I can guarantee you this much: George Boothby will be on an absolute tear. And the way that the car's handling at the moment, he's having to work with it. He can't work against it, because if the minute he starts working against this problem, he's going to have even more problems, which he's got 3 of them behind him.
Now, I've actually noticed something with the George Boothby's driving style, and this is something that I was noticing even before we saw the incident where Boothby clattered into the wall as Bonacorsi has a little look down the inside towards the Lucop, but not going to be able to get anything to happen this time around. So, next lap round, Alex, just have a little look when they make their way through Sunset Bend, because George Boothby always runs much wider than Bonacorsi, and indeed wider than Romanenko goes. Down the inside goes Bonacorsi. He pulls off the George Boothby, but he gets it stopped, and Romanenko's got to follow through. Now Romanenko has the inside down into Cheetah corner, and Romanenko's going to get the pair of them. Boothby taps the rear end of Bonacorsi, and Boothby is off into the grass once again. Bonacorsi, Romanenko, Giretti all unleashed.
You know what, Romanenko, the Ukrainian, did an absolutely brilliant job, but we have a look at the replay. So Bonacorsi made it through. Romanenko was waiting with eager eyes, and yet the slightest of taps, it was left rear onto left front of Boothby on the right rear of Bonacorsi, spun the McLaren around, and that's a real shame for George Boothby. But like I said, I would think that Boothby now is going to be even more fired up, and I know what George is like. He will be absolutely fuming after that one. And I do know that he does regularly stream on Twitch as well. So to be honest with you, and there he is, he's down in 9th position. Never say never. There's still an hour and 33 minutes left in this race. Boothby could come back firing on all 8 cylinders in that McLaren and just go for broke. But it's easier said than done a circuit like Kyalami, but you've got to make sure that you play your cards right. He's now going to have to calculate things on the fly. When do I pit? I need to repair this damage, because there's going to be more damage on that car after that slight touch, because if that front end hit the wall, that car is going to be suffering even more. So there'll be chronic understeer. The tyres will not be reacting as they should be. They might be stepped in terms of, you know, the car pitching to one side. The sidewalls are going to be screaming murder, and then also the fact is that the surface of the tyre will also be scrubbed. So could that have provided a flat spot issue for George Boothby? We'll have to find out later.
I'll tell you what, Romanenko now in clear air is getting the hammer down. He was able to pull half a second away from Bonacorsi on that previous lap. And we saw actually 2 weeks ago back in Zolder, Romanenko had an issue in the first half hour of the race. He dropped down the order, and then he really struggled to make his way through the field. He tried a few overtakes. I think he even got a drive-through penalty at one point just for forcing his way through a little bit too much. But now in clear air, he can try to hunt down Alessio Cataneo, who is a further few seconds up the road. Well, a few seconds, 13 seconds. It's a big gap, but a lot of time is still remaining in this race.
Yeah, I'm just having a look back over what happened between Bonacorsi and Boothby, just taking another look at it. It's very difficult to sort of like see. You know, there's multiple different viewpoints that you could take from that perspective of, and I'm just sort of like seeing it at half speed, because Romanenko was like a rat up a drain pipe trying to get that position, and Boothby goes through. Yeah, it's a bit of a 50-50. I know that King Phoenix has basically said that George Boothby avoids a collision again. Well, the thing is, the amount of speed that he was carrying into that corner. And the thing is that Bonacorsi had a right to defend his line, but was George Boothby alongside like half a car length? And if he was, that could be investigated. But the thing is, that's not our decision to make. We're the people telling the story. we're just the shouty blokes behind headset microphones.
I'll tell you what, Barzaghi is coming under some pressure now from Alessio Vacirca as they make their way into turn 2, Crowthorne. And can Vacirca find any way through as they head in to... Oh, is that a move down the inside? I think he just showed his nose. But it is still Barzaghi who holds on to P7 with Vacirca hot on his heels. But that Mercedes has so much grunt in a straight line. It makes it incredibly difficult for the Aston Martin, who's now looking round the outside of Sunset. But no, not quite enough a grip for Vacirca. He's going to have to sit behind, but constantly showing his nose in the side mirrors of Barzaghi, saying, I am here. I dare you to make one mistake, and my Aston will be down your inside as quick as you like.
Yeah. Quicker than you can probably say the word jump there, Yusuf, but a quarter of the way through the race, Amir Hosseini leading on lap number 18, 4.4 seconds ahead of Pierluca Amato. Alessio Cataneo making it a top 3 for BMW at the moment. Romanenko, the Ukrainian, getting the cheers on from there. So the good thing is that this race is very much alive and well.
Absolutely, we've got a few different battles going on. You know, Bonacorsi just over a second behind Romanenko, Ciaredi 6/10 behind Bonacorsi. This battle on your screen here, Barzaghi trying to keep Vacirca behind, and then there's another battle even further down, or at least there was. Sandro Van Sant behind Wojtek Dvorak, two drivers who actually both made their way to ACC from the F1 sim racing game, used to race against each other as well. Sandro Van Sant was by far and away the quicker driver there, but here on ACC, Wojtek Dvorak seems to have the measure of the Belgian driver. But we'll see how things change as George Boothby into the pits with 1.5 hours remaining, and I think Boothby just wants to get that damage dealt with as quickly as possible.
Get it done now, because the longer you leave it, the more damage it's going to do in the long run. And we've seen it before where the drivers can really try and push things and push the envelope, and Boothby's going to take a little bit of a hit now with repairing that damage, getting a new, probably I would say he'd be better off getting the tyres replaced as well, get a full tank of fuel in that car and just go for it and see what happens. We saw it last time out at Zolder. He started 4th, had a drop down the field, and then he came back to finish 3rd. Who's not to say that lightning can strike twice at 2 different circuits?
Absolutely, and I remember when speaking to George Boothby in the post-race interviews, and we were essentially speaking about car selection. In fact, actually, I'll hold that thought, because Andrea Corti sending one down the inside of Sandro Van Sant at the top of the hill, gets the job done as well through Lukop. He makes his way down towards Mineshaft. Corti up to P11, Sandro Van Sant down to P12.
Okay, just been informed by race control that the incident between Bonacorsi and Boothby has been declared as a racing incident, which is what I thought it might be. It was very much 50-50 when I had a look back at that incident at half speed. That just goes to show you how hard these drivers are pushing. So a very good call there. I think that was probably the fairest decision that they could have made with regards to that. If it had been a case that Bonacorsi had turned in a little bit more towards the right, then I think probably would have been classed as at fault. But it is what it is, and as we say, that is racing.
Well, it is racing, and sadly for George Boothby, he's ended up on the wrong end of the stick as Dario Balzaghi tries to find a way through on Ceretti, but for now is going to have to sit behind. And we have also completed over half an hour of the race, so with that we're going to jump on in to some quick commercial breaks. Don't worry, you'll still be able to see the race, you just won't be able to hear our wonderful dulcet tones. But do stay tuned, we'll be back shortly with the second half hour of the race here from Kyalami.
The GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Everyone, half an hour of racing done. Well, actually a little bit over half an hour completed here at Kyalami. The takeaway, Amr Hosseini still incredibly quick. Pierluca Amato holds on to P2. George Boothby in the walls, in the pits, and now trying to climb his way back up the order. Alex, we've had a lot of action for what has just been half an hour of racing.
Yeah, some great overtakes. I mean, we had the likes of Alessio Cattaneo doing the defensive a la Jarno Trulli earlier on in this race against George Boothby, but Konstantin Romanenko, the Ukrainian, has been an absolute tour de force, took advantage of the battling between Bonaccorsi and the 475 Ferrari, and managed to get through on the pair of them, going through one of the tightest parts on the circuit, going through turns 14 and 15, which is the approach from the Crocodiles through to Cheetah, and managed to get the job done. But Boothby's closing speed on Bonaccorsi really really did, you know, I think it was a bit of being unlucky. You know, the closing speed that he had, you know, he avoided a potential collision between himself and Bonaccorsi, but and that just shows the caliber of Boothby's driving prowess. But you can also sometimes say that maybe was Bonaccorsi being a bit too overzealous, trying to go around the outside of Crocodiles. So it's one of one, it's one of the other.
Well, trying to go anywhere around a Crocodile is always difficult, and that is also the case here at Kyalami.
Yeah, especially when it gets a bit snappy.
Yes, that's a good one. I'll give you that one, Mr. Goldschmidt. Also, Barzagli might be getting one up on Cireddi as well as they make their way, I believe, through Lurkop and now down towards Mine Shaft. And Dario Barzagli is very close to the rear end of the Aston Martin. And here's the thing, Barzagli's got a little advantage. He's in a Mercedes. And Mercedes are notoriously quick as, well, I think that was Cireddi having a bit of an interpretation of the track limits through Crocodiles. Now into Cheetah. And Barzagli's going to have to sit behind for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's... that's the thing. As soon as you hit three track cuts, we're running with Barzagli at the moment, which is the Evo version of it, so with slightly different headlights, a bit more aggressive in terms of it. But there looks to be a dive up the inside through into Crowthorne. The Aston and the Mercedes nearly come to blows, but the Aston looking to be around the outside of the Dukes K sweep. If you pull that one off, wow, that's a brilliant move. And heading into barbecue, the Aston Martin has gotten through. That was a great move there.
And I need to apologise. That wasn't Cireddi. That is Barzagli and Vachirka. Fantastically done from Vachirka to find a way through. And now you just need to keep the Mercedes behind him for a little bit longer. But Vachirka up into P7, Barzagli down into P8. But that Mercedes still hot on the heels of the Aston Martin. This battle might not be over yet.
Yeah, I think I also saw a move by Corti on Traversa on the replay we just saw a moment ago. So the number 33 Renegade Sim Racing work group Lexus that placed 8th position last time, now up into 11th position as we've gone past the 40-minute mark of this second round of the GTR 24H Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series season number 2. Got some exciting news coming soon, reference EEWC 2022, and we can't really wait to tell you about that one. You can head to our GTR24H.org website in the not too distant future when we can unveil plans of exactly what's happening. And ladies and gentlemen, the news is going to be biblical.
And the first round of the Endurance E-Racing World Championship is in 2 weeks' time. It's actually the official practice, I believe, is happening at the same time as round 3 of the Sprint Series Championship. So it's going to be a pretty cool week of racing. We're going to have the Sprint Series and then straight into the Endurance E-Racing World Championship. And that's just these two. You've still got the hill climb on the Monday, as well as the touring car racing series as well. That's done over on iRacing. We've seen a pit stop, the first, I guess, almost scheduled pit stop, because George Boothby's pit stop was so early. And that's Sandra Van Sand out of the car after just 40 minutes, handing over to his teammate, his German teammate, Christian Sendel.
Yeah. That's one of the other things as well with the Sprint Series, that we do have drivers actually teaming up. So Vaccerca partnering up, so you've got Alessio and Simone in the same car. Then you've got Luca Princi and Francesco Cireddi in the number 27 car. So the good thing is that these drivers are giving each other equal amount of time, and they'll have a strategy in play. Sometimes, if you are the only driver in the car, you're going to be incredibly under pressure, both physically and mentally, over a 2-hour race. And now we're starting to see the temperature decrease a little bit more in terms of track temperature here, Yusuf. We're now down to 28 degrees Celsius, so this is going to help the tyres quite a lot in the next hour and a quarter.
Which also means it's going to be helping out the likes of George Boothby and Christian Sendel, who had to make rather early pit stops. So they'll be they'll be very happy to hear that their tyres will have a little bit of extra life in them, as the track will be slightly kinder towards the 4 boots on these mobiles. Ahmed Hosseini still leads. He's got himself a 5-6 second gap, 5.5 seconds between himself and Pierluca Amato. And credit where credit's due, Pierluca Amato has been keeping Ahmed Hosseini honest. He's been keeping himself within striking distance if Ahmed Hosseini does have any form of issues. Cataneo, though, he's in his own little world, 18 seconds behind Pierluca Amato, 25 seconds ahead of Romanenko, or pardon me, not 25 seconds, 15 seconds ahead of Romanenko. So for him right now, it's just about keeping his head down and putting in the laps.
Yeah. I think with regards to putting in the laps, that can also help with regards to your points tally come the end of each race. And, you know, we've still got, you know, in a couple of weeks' time, the drivers are going to head to the Hungaroring for the 3rd round of the championship. So, and also there might be some interesting development. Now, you know, you said about the fact that EEWC is starting in 2 weeks' time. I can let you all know out there that there is going to be a calendar change with EEWC for 2022. But there is some bigger news coming. So we're going to probably have about, I think it's going to be a month's delay. So we're going to be starting in February with EEWC. But further details will be revealed in due course. So a little bit of a teaser for those people out there wondering, when is the Endurance E-Racing World Championship going to be starting? So it is going to be Hungaroring on its own in 2 weeks' time, Yusuf. So we won't have a microcosm, a multicultural amount of racing. So Sprint Series and EEWC. So EEWC will start February this year as opposed to January as it did last year in 2021.
Hang on, let me just work out what Sprint Series race is happening a month after, and then work out when we're having our festival of racing.
Yeah, the GTR 24H Motorsport Festival, as they would say in Germany, because there was I was at the DTM Motorsport Festival at the Lausitzring back in 2016, where we had temperatures of over 30+ degrees, and we had a torrential downpour and thunderstorm on the Sunday afternoon right after race 2 for the DTM that weekend.
So, I've got a question now. As apparently we're getting notifications that George Boothby might still have damage. So I think what would be a fantastic thing to do is to jump on board with George Boothby himself. Now, the last time round, George Boothby put in a 42. This time round, he put in a 46.3. So what I'm going to do, let's go back by a minute and ride on board with George Boothby and see if we can identify exactly what has happened to this McLaren, because he must have made a mistake and he must have hit the wall, because his lap time, the previous lap, was perfectly fine, Alex.
Yeah, that car, look, I'm just going to keep an eye on the steering inputs here. But yeah, you can just see he's just trying to just guide the car back. It's never easy when you've got that kind of situation where you're driving with a damaged vehicle and you've got to make sure that you get through that. I think George Boothby might be getting up to speed, so if he is still running with that damage, he's got to be praying and willing for a miracle to happen.
Wait, but the car looked fine. Huh, that is bizarre.
Oh, hang on. I just saw a mechanical black flag shown there. And there's also, Boothby's got a stop-go, hasn't he? Stop-go 30. Yeah. Was that for speeding in the pit lane?
Well, George Boothby is...
Ah, right. King Phoenix has just come on. He said, Boothby, he can't turn. He can't turn as a... Ah, there might be a bug in his game that's caused this massive problem.
Oh, dear me. It's just going from bad to worse for George Boothby. Well, you know what? Look at the silver lining for George Boothby. At least he's having all of his bad luck in one race.
Yeah, and that car's back in the pits again, so he might have done an RTG return to garage, as now the headlights are on the cars, as the server time is now fast approaching 7 PM in Kyalami. You can see there in the picture-in-picture, there is Boothby in the pits. And yeah, the biggest thing now is how long is that car going to be in the pits? It's already been sitting stationary for about 15 seconds. And that car looks like the damage has been repaired on the front. I can tell, because otherwise, if that bumper was damaged above the headlights, you can see that the hazards are flashing as well. It's part of the procedure.
I'm just rereading the message from King Phoenix. It's not that he can't turn; it's he can't turn on the lights, I think.
Yeah.
And there's the rule within there's a rule on the game, which is when darkness approaches, you've got a few laps to turn the lights on the car. So is that why it's given him the penalty? Did he stop on the middle of the track to go into his settings and try to bind a button to turn on and off his lights?
One of the other things that was on there, mechanical black flag was showing as well. Because that's the problem. So if that damage on the front of the vehicle was causing the headlights, so if he's repaired that damage, and for some reason if there's a game bug where it's not allowing him to turn on the lights via his steering wheel or a key input on his keyboard on the sim, that's probably why he's in the pits. So whether he's trying to see if there's something that he can do in order to rectify that problem.
Well, let's hold on to that thought for a second, because Ciretti is all over the rear end of Bonacorsi as they're making their way through the final corner of Inga and on to the start to finish straight. And Ciretti was really up the inside into Crocodiles, as further down that's Wojtek Dvorak, seeing Mr. Corti closing in to him in the battle for 10th, the final point paying position as well.
Yeah, we're about just over 9.5 minutes to go until we hit the halfway point of this race. And yeah, what are we now? We're on lap number 30. So
Boothby? George? Are you alright? We just saw that on the top right of the screen. That is bizarre. However, we'll go back to that momentarily, because Ciretti is having a little look around the outside of Bonacorsi, ends up braking earlier into the S's as he looks out for a cheeky old cutback, but Bonacorsi having absolutely none of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that just goes to show how quickly things can unravel. But Bonacorsi keeping Ciretti at bay, and they've got Machirka, that's Alessio behind the wheel of the Aston Martin just behind.
Alessio for the Vachirka brothers, or maybe it's father and son, maybe it's cousins, I don't know. They both have the same surname, so I'd like to assume they are siblings. Someone of Vachirka will be jumping in the car once they do make their one and only pit stop, or the one and only scheduled pit stop of the race. Wojtek Dvorak. Corti's really closed in as well. And Andrea Corti, last time round, or at the last race, qualified P11, finished 8th in that race. And maybe he will be looking to go to worse, but as long as he picks up points, it's all decent.
Yeah, well, by the halfway point of this race, I mean, Amir Hosseini currently on lap number 31. We could have close to 160 kilometres of racing completed by the leader by the halfway stage of this race. So Hosseini has been on an absolute tear. And one of the biggest things is, yeah, I think George Boothby has exited off piste, and by that I mean off the server. So if he's had a game bug, He's probably had to return to garage and then exit the game, unfortunately. So George Boothby could be the first DNF of the evening.
I think he is the first DNF. He seems to be out for some. Oh my God! Cireddi sent one down the inside of Bonacorsi, and now Barzai, oh pardon me, that's Verchirka who's going to be able to take advantage of this, maybe take advantage of the pair of them as they make their way down towards Mineshaft. It's Renegade against Renegade side by side, as now we see an instant replay, but the two are battling. If we could bring that up in the bottom right of our screen, it would be perfect, and this is exactly what happened. Just look how late on the brakes on Cireddi. And again, we've seen that now a couple of times, Alex, where someone's been too late on the brakes, had to jump on the power to avoid an accident between the pair of them.
Francesco Cireddi, my goodness me! I mean, that was one hell of a send and a half, and I cannot believe he got away with that one. You know, like literally,
yeah.
Bonacorsi was on the cutback offensive, saw Cireddi going like a bull in a china shop up the inside, and of all places at Loikop, you don't see that often here at Kyalami. And Cireddi thought, you know what, I'm gonna do a Daniel Ricciardo, lick the stamp and sent it, and still has kept the place. But I think probably the way that it happened was that Cireddi probably thought, oh no, here we go, hit the brakes, turned the car back in, got behind Bonacorsi, got the move done, and retook the position. So it's the you know, we've got the Cavallino Rampante meet between an Aston Martin sandwich right now, and I think that move from Cireddi caught Bonacorsi unawares, because no one would expect a move like that through Loikop.
Well, the thing is, we've kind of missed how Cireddi got the position, because he's ahead of Bonacorsi, and I'm wondering if the stewards are going to make him give back that position, because yes, there wasn't any contact between the pair of them, but there was only no contact because Bonacorsi probably saw it coming, and kind of turned out of the incident. So I do wonder how the stewards might interpret that incident.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Right, we've got a car going into the pits. That is Bonacorsi. That has gone in the pits from 6th position, and that is at the 55-minute mark. So the Team Ballas Esport 475 Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo into the pits, and I would think that's going to be any damage to be repaired. If it's not superficial, a new set of tyres and a full tank of fuel. So now the strategy chess games start to reveal themselves before our very eyes, Yusuf. And Bonacorsi, I think, might have been the first person to decide, you know what, I've got to try and undercut people here. And it's going to be a bit of a lengthy pit stop when you take into consideration full tank of fuel, tyres, and then also these cars doing what, 50 kilometers an hour down the pit lane? Yeah. It's a lengthy stop, and that's over a minute plus.
The other thing I wonder as well is because drivers don't have to make their pit stop when their fuel tank runs dry. They can pit with 10 litres of fuel in the car if they want to go for that undercut, and as a result they can still gain time in the pits by putting less fuel into the car. And well, we'll see where Bonacorsi has come out. He's in P12, but we'll see when Verchirka and Cireddi pit where they come out relative to Bonacorsi.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing, because Bonacorsi could have possibility of an undercut masterclass here, and that's sometimes how a race can be decided. I mean, we know for a fact that between Amir Hosseini and Pierluca Amato, who's going to pit first, or are they going to pit at the same time? It's all dependent on how far you can stretch that last, like, half a litre, quarter of a litre of fuel left in that tank. And if you get it down to reserve, you then at least know, right, I've pushed as hard as I can. Let's see if I can float the boat out a little bit more. But that's dependent on whether Amato decides to do the ultimate undercut on Amir Hosseini. And if you try and do that, it either goes very, very well, or it goes horribly wrong.
Something else I want to just bring everyone's attention to is Alessio Cataneo in P3. He's now only 10 seconds ahead of Konstantin Romanenko. The gap between them before, I think, was about 15 seconds. So Romanenko is bringing that gap down, even if it is taking its time. And don't forget, Romanenko is in the McLaren, Cataneo in the BMW. So I think Romanenko will maybe gain about 3-4 seconds in the pit stop anyway, maybe even more if he's got more fuel in the McLaren or had a heavier fuel load than Cataneo had in the BMW. So let's see how that gap changes over the remainder of the race. Last time around, Romanenko taking 4 tenths out of Cataneo.
Yeah, just seen that Pierluca Marto's just overtaken Mattia Traversa in 10th position. So the number 17 Renegade BMW M4 GT3 goes down on another lap, but Pierluca Marto now is 9.5 seconds behind Amir Hosseini. So Hosseini is incrementally increasing that gap, but not by much. I mean, Hosseini knows exactly what he's got to do. He'll have a game plan, and we're nearly at the hour mark, and neither driver has decided to pit. So one of the other good things about going through backmarker traffic, Yusuf, is that it's also going to help with your fuel strategy and also with the tyres as well, because when you're behind a vehicle, I mentioned about aerodynamic stability. I didn't mention about the biggest pro that you can have with regards to being in the tow, being in the slipstream, or the draft, as the Americans like to call it, is to have the opportunity to fuel save. And I mentioned that earlier on the broadcast, that when you come to a 2-hour race like this, fuel saving sometimes can help. I mean, you can go through corners like Loikop, which is turn 10, and through turn 11. There's a bit of a downward slant, and then you can start applying the power, because if you start applying the power too early through the exit of the corner, having negotiated your way through the apex, you can lift and coast. So you can lift and coast before the braking zone, hit the brakes, turn in, wait a second, bang, hit the power. Yeah. And actually, just before I change the subject... Oh, Amato's pitted.
Yeah, Amato's pitted, and so had a very certain driver called Alessio Cataneo. He's pitted as well. He's down to P8 now, ahead of Bonacorsi, who has already made his pit stop. So now we need to wait for Romanenko to pit and see where he comes out relative to Cataneo. The gap between the pair of them before the pit stop was about 10 to 11 seconds. So we'll see how things change. Pierluca Marto, now that he's made his stop, he's actually 10 seconds behind Romanenko.
Yeah, so again, the strategy calls now coming in. We're past the halfway distance. Amir Hosseini still leads after what is now 35 laps of racing ahead of Konstantin Romanenko from Team Ballas Ukraine in the number 48 McLaren, having done a fantastic job so far. Pierluca Marto rounds out the top 3 ahead of Francesco Ceredi, who now jumps up into 3rd place as a result of, I think, Amato. Yeah, Amato has ended up in the pits. So Alessio Vacirca, followed by Dario Barzaghi. That is your top 6 cars at the moment. Mattia Vacca rounds out the top 7 ahead of Alessio Cataneo. Matteo Bonacorsi rounds out the next couple of positions, and then Wojciech Dvorak has now handed over to Teddy Franks in the Ledge Racing number 34 McLaren. Mattia Traversa, and then we've got Andrea Corti, and then finally the number 93 car. That is the Outlaw Racing McLaren that has now got Christian Sendel behind the wheel. But yeah, there's been an interesting change, because there goes Ceredi into the pits. So I would imagine that Luca Princi will be taking over for the final, the second part of the race, as now looks like we're going to have clear skies. We did have a bit of cloud cover for the first half hour or so of this race, Yusuf, but now with clear conditions, track temperature at 27 degrees Celsius, cooler air is going to help with the temperatures on the tyres, and also we could see some faster laps. That's one of the things about nighttime driving, is that the minute the temperatures drop, everything seems to get that extra second win, especially in a race like this.
And I've actually just noticed something as well, Alex, but there's something else on the forecast. Do you want to have a guess as to what that is?
Don't tell me. Go on.
Commercial break. We'll catch you guys in a short bit. Don't go anywhere.
The GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back to round 2 of the GTR 24H Sette Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. We are halfway through our second round of the championship here at Kyalami, and Alex Goldschmidt, we've started to see most of the pit stops being made as well.
Yes, indeed. One driver that hasn't pitted yet, I think, is the current leader, Amir Hosseini, who has had some initial challenges, well, a couple of challenges in the form of Pierluca Marto, but also George Boothby doing that audacious outside overtake on the very first lap. Was really a sign of things to come for this race, but obviously George Boothby's race is no longer going any further forward because we're down to 13 competitors. But yeah, there's still plenty of twists and turns, I'm sure, in the next 53 minutes of this second round of the championship.
Now, on the right of your screen, you can see Andrea Corti, who is trying to keep Christian Sendel behind. Christian Sendel who had been closing in by almost a second a lap actually to Andrea Corti, and now trying to find a way through. Now that he has arrived on to the rear end of the, I believe, I'm just trying to double check the make of it. Yeah, the Lexus, the only Lexus on the field.
And good to see the Japanese mark being represented. Yeah, Teddy Franks from Ledge Racing, currently sitting in 10th position. A lot of the drivers have got themselves into the pits, and Mattia Vacca in the number 16 Bentley is now currently in the pits, having gotten to, I think, as high as 3rd position, if memory serves me correctly, because at the moment it's still the trio of BMWs leading the way. Amir Hosseini leading by 11.2 seconds ahead of Pierluca Amato, with Alessio Cataneo rounding out the top 3.
And Romanenko, now that he's pitted, is 12 seconds behind Cataneo. So I actually think the McLaren lost about 2 seconds to the BMW during the pit stop cycle. So sadly for Romanenko, not going to be able to find any advantage during the pit stop stage. Who is that is closing in onto Corti and Sendo? Because I presume that is someone coming to lap them.
Possibly. I'll keep my... That could be. That is Cataneo behind them in the number 25 vehicle. So, yeah, Alessio Cataneo doing a pretty good job, and that's the BMW M4. So, Corti's got to watch it, as has Sendel, and... yeah, the interesting thing is that Cataneo will need to get past them pretty quickly. I think Cataneo's really got past Sendel, so of course he's a little bit further up the road. But King Phoenix asked an interesting question: what happened to the gap between P1 and P2 after Amir has pitted? Because it's gone up from 9.5 to 11.2 seconds. I'm wondering if Pierluca Amato might have had a bit of a drama in the meantime, because Amato actually... I think Amato's pitted as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, Amato has pitted, so I think it's just because Ahmed Hosseini, he pitted, I think it was about nearly 5 laps after Pierluca Amato, so there's a lot less fuel going into the BMW. As a result, stopped for less time in the pits, and that's where he would have found those couple of seconds, and maybe just braking later up to the pit entry line and finding some time there as well.
Yeah, could very much be the case, as now we're on to lap number 41. 50 minutes to go, and Cataneo making short work of Christian Sendel, and now has Andrea Corti, who finished 8th. Well, nice way, a good move there. Now, the drivers were warned about blue flags by our race director before we went racing earlier on this evening. Just looking at previous results, I mean, Amir Hosseini won the opening round at Zolder last time out. 2nd position last time went to Amato, so literally it could be a repeat on the cards for what happened at Zolder, but the biggest change would be P3, because Alessio Cataneo finished 5th last time behind Mattia Vacca at Zolder, but it was George Boothby that finished in P3. 6th last time was Bonacorsi, who is currently sitting in 9th position, but Bonacorsi is trying to close in on Berzaghi, and the pair are about 0.3 of a second adrift of each other, with Berzaghi in 8th and Bonacorsi in 9th.
Now look at that group of cars, isn't it beautiful, Alex? Leading this group is Mattia Vacca in P5, then it is Luca Princi for Renegade, then you've got Simonova Circa, Dario Berzaghi, who I think almost had a certain Marcello Bonacorsi diving down his inside, and then that brings the group to a close of 5 cars strong, from Mattia Vacca in P5 down to Marcello Bonacorsi in P9, and I believe 4 of those 5 cars are Ballas cars. All of the purple cars are Ballas, yellow cars are Renegade.
Yeah, I think Berzaghi nearly came a cropper going through Cheetah on that particular occasion. I did say that you can't be too greedy on the curbs, especially on Cheetah, as all Berzaghi has a moment. That was going through the Jux K sweep, and he's got Bonacorsi all over the rear wing, and Bonacorsi's up the inside through barbecue. So Berzaghi has made a couple of unforced errors, and Bonacorsi has taken clear advantage, but it was It was coming through the Jukes K sweep that Barasaki got it all wrong, all crossed up. And Bonacorsi was there to pounce. Prinzi, in the meantime, is closing in on Mattia Vacca, and Vacca's making that Continental GT3 as wide as humanly possible down into the S's, coming out of Clubhouse at turn 7. It's all kicking off, and then behind Prinzi, we've got Simone Vacirca. So it's a three-way scrap, 2 Astons versus a Bentley, and behind they've got the Cavallino Rampante charging forward.
I actually think that was a little bit dirty by Mattia Vacca. He moved over to the inside, which was fine. But then it's when Prinzi moved back to the outside. That's when Vacca moved to the outside as well and blocked him off again. And it's those 2 moves across the track that you can get in trouble for. So Mattia Vacca might be having to watch himself as the 5 cars make their way through Cheetah. But it is this 3-way battle that is very close. Ballas from 2 Renegades are followed by 2 more Ballas cars. We've got 5 Ballas cars in a total in the championship, 5 Renegade cars as well. So I'm sure the 2 eSport teams will be having a bit of a battle between themselves over the course of the season. As Luca Prinzi again has a little look to the inside, down into Crowthorne, but not going to be able to find any way through this time as Bonacorsi hot on the heels of Vacirca's Aston Martin, and well, I think Bonacorsi the quickest of the 5.
Very much the case. There is a yellow flag out on the circuit at the minute. Not too sure where that is at the moment, Yusuf, but Bonacorsi closing in Simone Vacirca as Prinzi looking up the inside of Vacca once again, this time going through into what is really trying to keep getting, well, Vacca's trying to get past. I think the thing is that Vacca's got to watch his P's and Q's, because otherwise too much weaving could caught the eyes of race controllers. Prinzi Vacirca being well, they're being sort of really closed in on by Bonacorsi, and Prinzi's looking, he's got to the outside. Oh, that was going through into the crocodiles, and Prinzi went towards the outside. Got out right touch with Bonacorsi, and Prinzi is out of the mix. It goes from 5 to 4 at the drop of a hat.
I don't even know how you take that one if you're race control, because you know exactly what Vacirca's doing here. So Vacirca comes through this corner and he says, I'm going to slam this door shut so you can't rejoin. And I think that Prinzi just didn't know it was happening, tried to rejoin anyway, and the pair of them made contact. So I don't know how you judge that one, as now it's 1 Renegade amongst 3 Ballas cars. Bonacorsi almost making contact, and now Barzagli might be trying to find a way through on his teammate as well.
Yeah, that just goes to show how close it was between those cars, and effectively we can see how quickly it can unfold. And that is where things can all go wrong, but Bonacorsi was very, very lucky there, I have to admit. And any closer to Luca Prinzi could have spelt disaster for Bonacorsi, but Bonacorsi has managed to stay out of trouble so far.
So far it's okay for Bonacorsi. Can he find a way through on Simone Vacirca? Vacirca, well, can he find a way through on Mattia Vacca? I think Vacca might have this one done or sorted for now, but in the background of your shot you can see Luca Prinzi. I don't think he has too much damage to his car, thankfully. We'll keep an eye on his lap times as he tries to close back in to this 4-way battle for P5.
Yeah, so it's all coming to a head. And realistically, in the next 43 minutes, I would say that the danger driver here is Marcello Bonacorsi in the 475 Ferrari, who's really got the toe on Simone Vacirca, going through into the kink as we're on to lap number 45 of this race as they head towards Crowthorne. Bonacorsi looks to the inside into Crowthorne, nothing quite doing there yet, but going through the Jukes K sweep up the hill. And the Ferrari seems to be a bit more planted when you look at it from this perspective, Yusuf, that the 3 other cars surrounding the 475 Ferrari are all front-engined, rear-wheel drive. The Ferrari, mid-engined rear-wheel drive. That's going to help with the weight distribution, the balance on the car, and going through sunset. Simone Vacerca has been sorted, and well, it could have been sorted there if Bonacorsi has had the opportunity, the run of purchase, to get through on Simone Vacerca, but at the moment you can just see Bonacorsi is starting to get, I wouldn't say the term frustrated, probably starting to get a little bit more aggressive than he might want to be at this particular point in the race, because with 42 minutes to go, it is now the case that Bonacorsi's got to try and think of one way to get past, but not to be too overzealous, not to be over-aggressive with the Yusuf, because that could be trouble for the 475 Ferrari.
Well, I tell you what, Luca Princi is going quickly. He did a 43.4 faster than all of the others, but that is a good exit coming through from Bonacorsi. Will it be enough to get him fully down the inner side as we make our way into the kink and towards turn 1, riding just all off board with Simone Vacerca as we make our way down into turn 1, down the inside, and the 2 ballast cars might make contact as well. Down the outside goes Vacerca, but is it going to be enough? No, he's going to lose both positions in one go, and Vacerca will fall behind Bonacorsi, and Barzaghi is now 3 ballast cars from the 2 Renegades.
Mamma mia, mercy, mercy me. Marcello Bonacorsi, bravo, signore, bravo is all I'm saying on that one. That was that was very much of the same ilk of Romanenko. Looking at the replay again, just absolutely pins it on the inside of Vacchia. And the thing is, Simone Vacerca had nowhere to go, and you've also
went down the inside of his teammate as well.
I know, it's ridiculous.
But I'm just wondering if maybe it was balancing between themselves. Let Barzaghi go first. He's in the Mercedes. He's got the grunt to be able to pull up alongside the Aston Martin on the start-finish straight. Then we'll worry about everything else. But either way, that is Barzaghi ahead of Mattia Vacca. It's Bonacorsi who now leads a 3. So the balanced drivers have switched themselves around completely. Bonacorsi now into clear air, pulling away. But I tell you what, Vacerca and Princi are not looking to take any prisoners. They're right on the rear end of the Aston Martin, just like they were 4 or 5 laps ago.
Well, I've just had a message from race control that the incident involving Luca Princi is a racing incident. Tries to overtake and is a bit too aggressive and accidentally hits Mattia Vacca, and effectively that put Princi out. And yeah, effectively what happened there was that Princi returns has a rejoin, or a redress as they would say in Australia, and unfortunately hasn't checked the mirrors, and unfortunately hits another vehicle. So Luca Princi's race hasn't really gone well for him, for Francesco Ceretti, and that really just goes to show how difficult things can be. But you know, we've seen 2 great opportunistic individuals, one of which is Konstantin Romanenko, who currently still sits in P4, having taken that audacious move earlier on in the race. But I think the biggest one of all, Marcello Bonacorsi, has pulled off, I think, one of the moves of the season so far.
There's a fantastic dive from the Ferrari, and then right after getting past Vacerca, he made his way through on his teammate as well. Now, Vacerca has actually allowed his teammate of Luca Princi through, and now Luca Princi looking at the rear end of Mattia Vacca. This time he's got no pesky ballast drivers behind him. It's just the one ballast driver in front of him that he can keep his eyes focused on.
He needs to keep his P's and Q's in check, because he nearly tapped the back right of Mattia Vacca's Bentley going through that corner, which would have probably been through in the Crocodiles. So Yeah, Luca Prinzi might be all fired up and gusto.
He's got the run.
Blazing, and he's looking towards, that's the outside approach. And, oh, they've touched! And the pair both go sideways again. It's Prinzi that goes sideways once more. And there is... I'm just wondering who that was. Was that Mattia Traversa that's just got through?
No, that's Simone Vecirca. That's Vecirca.
Vecirca. Okay, so we can have a look at this again. So, Mattia Vac...
What is Prinzi doing? He just turns across him.
He does. He's up. Yeah, no, that was never going to work in a month of Sundays, even though it's Thursday night. I don't... that particular incident, that was all Prinzi's making on that one.
I'm just wondering... Did he think he was clear and thought he could just slam the door shut?
Yeah, that's the thing. If he thought he was clear, I don't think he was, because that Bentley's a big old beast, and you've got to be at least a car length and a half in front. And it was nip and tuck as to whether it was going to be a car length between the two, and it was just contact, you know, right front of the Bentley on the left rear of the Aston Martin, whilst Prinzi was trying to turn in, and Prinzi's not, you know, Prinzi at this particular moment is now down in ninth, so this has given Vecirca the opportunity to close on in Simone, not Alessio this time, as we're into the last 36.5 minutes with nearly 40, I think it's going to be 49 laps again, and yeah, and once again, Race Control are basically saying that, yeah, Prinzi's, that incident again was a not looking in the mirrors side of things from Race Control's perspective.
Prinzi's going to have to be careful because another one of those, and it might be a drive-through penalty. Also, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Ledger Racing, because Teddy Franks has really dropped it down the order. He's all the way down in P13. He's falling behind Christian Sendel and Andrea Corti as well, and Christian Sendel closing in onto Mattia Traversa in the battle for the final point of the race.
Yeah, that just goes to show how difficult this race has become, and especially with reference points being a bit, you know, the visual reference points go a bit to pot here, especially during the nighttime skies. Now the server is showing at 7:29 p.m. with 35 minutes and 18 seconds on the clock. The visual references that the drivers have for braking have all sort of gone a bit by the wayside, unless they're using the marker boards, Yusuf. And the bumps and undulations, especially with the force feedback through their steering wheels. You know, these drivers are they're having to work on their wits a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, we've had this conversation time and time again in the Endurance Racing World Championship, nighttime versus daytime driving. Which do you prefer? And some prefer one over another, but Simone Vecirca, I think, would prefer to be in front of Mattia Vacca than behind his fellow Italian, as he closes in onto the Ballas driver once again. Ahmed Hosseini closing in, or maybe that's Pierluca Amato. Either way, is one of the BMWs. I believe it is Hosseini, and maybe the Renegade drivers can take advantage of this blue flag situation to find a way through on the Ballas car.
Yeah, sometimes that's easier said than done as well, because if is the ballast car going to get out of the way, you need to get out of the way.
All teams, please respect blue flag.
And again, Race Control now saying respecting the blue flags. Samir Hosseini. Oh, that's exactly why race director was on there right then saying, right, please watch out for the blue flags, because Amir Hosseini's now completed half a century of laps here, and that was the two Renegade cars, wasn't it? Was that Vecirca and Prinzi that was getting past? So, that was going through the of all places. Now, where was that going through? That was going through the Jux K sweep, and Amir Hosseini got compromised big time.
It was just a bad place to try to let a leader through, and to be honest, I think the timing of Race Control's message made the Renegade driver think, oh, I need to let him through quickly, without maybe really considering where he was letting Ahmed Hosseini through. And well, I think Ahmed Hosseini's going to be glad he's passed those two, and now just needs to find a way through on the ballast guys before he can wipe the sweat off his forehead and get his head back down.
Yeah, because there's still probably, what is it, Just about half an hour to go. Well, just under 33 minutes, so probably just after the half-hour mark to get. Well, with less than half an hour to go, we will go to our final commercial break of the evening. But we're on board with Simone Vacirca, and you can see now the gap between Vacirca and Mattia Vacca is now extended to 2.4 seconds, and already Amir Hosseini away into the distance like a scalded cat off a hot tin roof as usual. And Vacirca is closing in on Mattia Vacca. That is the Bentley up ahead. So, has there been a drama for Vacca in the meantime, even with the fact that
I think he's just letting through Hosseini.
Well, I don't. It might have been a combination of having to let through Hosseini, but also the fact whether that Bentley is starting to have a little bit of difficulty in the latter stage of the race. We don't know how the tyres are handling. There's been a lot of moving about on those tyres for that Bentley Continental GT3, and now Vacirca. Let's see what the gap is between them. It's 1.2 seconds now, and Luca Prinzi is right with Simone Vacirca, so the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th place gets reignited.
Things starting to get close once again as Prinzi is on the back of his teammate who's closing back in on Vacirca. Meanwhile, all the while, Bonacorsi and Barzagli just pull further and further away in their own little race. Romanenko, Bonacorsi, Barzagli, all Ballas drivers, Cataneo as well. And I think, at least here at Kyalami, it looks to be Ballas getting one up over their competitors in the form of Renegade Sim Racing Work Group.
Yes, indeed. So, getting into the last 31 minutes of this race, I don't think we're done and dusted by a long shot here, Yusuf, because 52, well, we're on to our 53rd lap of racing. What are the lap times that Amir Hosseini is doing at the moment, just out of interest?
Fast lap times, it's a 42.0 last time round. Pierluca Amato 42.2, Cataneo 42.5, and then as you go down, the lap times make their ways into the 43s and 44s.
So we could have effectively maybe the best part of 70 laps completed at the end of this race, so that's going to be the best part of about 318 kilometres. Done and dusted by Amir Hosseini if he keeps up this pace, but yeah, half an hour to go and he's still got a lead of 12.4 seconds over Pierluca Amato. No one's had an answer for Hosseini in the second round of the championship, you know, pole position and second round, but still, this battle here, Mattia Vacca and Simone Vacirca and Luca Prinzi line astern coming down the hill through into mineshaft turn number 12. They have got a couple of cars in front as well. Vacirca was looking up the inside of Vacca going through into Crocodiles, but the Bentley, the rear haunches, kept as wide as humanly possible.
And they're catching up to a lap car as well. I think that's Teddy Franks just in front of them. Maybe that could be an opportunity for Vacirca and Prinzi to find a way through. I think Vacirca and Prinzi are maybe even quicker than the likes of Barzagli and Bonacorsi, but now 10 seconds behind them, I think would be struggling to close in. As Mattia Vacca goes defensive on the run into turn 1, Vacirca looks to the outside, looks to get the switch back as well. And we'll just have to tuck in behind the Bentley as they make their way through the Juskell sweep and towards Barbecue Corner.
Yeah. So it's going to be really going to be a case of I think now, in line with that, with 28.5 minutes to go, let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time as we conclude round 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series Season 2 here at Kyalami.
The GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Welcome back, folks. We are getting ready to head into the final, well, I'd say the final half an hour, but it's actually the final 25 minutes here at Kyalami for the second round of the second season of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, and it has been another impervious drive from Ahmed Hosseini, who leads the way from here, Luca Amato and Alessio Cataneo. But the battle that we are all keeping our eyes on is this battle for P7. Mattia Vacca for Ballas Esports trying to keep Luca Princi and Simone Vecirca hot behind him. And then we've got these two, Mattia Bonacorsi and Dario Barzaghi, battling for P5. Both Ballas drivers, so I doubt we'll see anything too aggressive from either of them, Alex.
No, they'll want to be on a conservative strategy, because we know that in championships here, Yusuf, that it is a marathon and not a sprint. But you try telling any good racing driver worth their salt that they will go, yeah, I'm going to throw caution to the wind here, forget what the team's thinking about. But Bonacorsi has been one of the tour de forces in terms of overtaking charlatanesque manoeuvres here tonight. Not just him, but Romanenko has also been part of that banditry as well. But it's provided some great moments at the minute. But I think, yeah, Barzaghi and Bonacorsi will stay, I would think, stay in formation unless there's an unforced error from either one of them, and then that could possibly give them a few dramas in the process.
Well, just a couple of battles to keep our eyes peeled for. Romanenko has been unable to close in onto Cataneo any further. He was closing in the first stint of the race, but in the second stint, Cataneo has just been a very tiny bit quicker. The gap extending from 13 seconds to about 14 seconds over the last 40 minutes or so. As we see Mattia Vacca with Luca Princi closely behind him. A couple of tenths separating the pair of them as they make their way down towards, I believe that is Crocodile Corner.
Yeah, the Crocodiles. So as Bonacorsi and Barzaghi now make their way through, Linus Stern coming through out of Ingwe, the 16th and final corner. And Bonacorsi running in the 1 minute 43.2s, so about a second off of the pace that Mr. Amir Hosseini, who's currently still leading, as we now ride on board with the Team Ballas Esports number 8 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo of Dario Balasaki.
16, car 16, please respect blue flag, please respect blue flag.
Right, okay, so there has been a warning to car number 16.
Car 16, this is a warning, give.
Oh, so Mattia Vacca's being told off by race control there.
I always wonder how off-putting it must be if you are driving and then you suddenly hear race control coming over to you, because I know it surprises me, and that's me here in the commentary booth, that's me not even in the car. I know I was once doing a Formula 1 race, and I think I was just doing a practice against some AI just to test fuel strategies and tyre strategies and stuff like that. And I was about halfway through my race at Spa, and I remember going into Pouon corner, going into the left-hander, and because I was streaming, as I went into the left-hander, I got a notification that someone had raided my channel or subscribed or something like that, and it was a very loud sound, and it threw me off, and I almost spun mid-corner. So I wonder if it's the same for these guys.
Well, there has been a change between Balasaki and Bonacorsi. So Balasaki now up into 5th position. So I don't think team orders might be de rigueur. This is only the 2nd round of the championship, let's not forget. So Balasaki is well within rights to throw one up the inside of Bonacorsi. So that just goes to show that, yeah, you can race your teammates hard and fair, but don't take them out. That's the biggest rule of racing. Never take out your teammates. And,
well, Luca Princi, he won't have to care about that rule, because Mattia Vacca is not his teammate. He looks to the outside, down into turn 1 again, turning across Vacca into turn 1. He found himself almost in the wall when he tried that previously, but this time Princi is a little bit more aware of it, and the two don't make contact, but Princi still behind Vacca as they come out of Barbecue Corner and they make their run down towards Sunset Bend.
Yeah, with 20 minutes on the clock still to go, it's anyone's guess, because Mattia Vacca really coming under pressure, as Luca Princi is not too far behind. Then Simone Vacirca still in with a shout of 7th position. And the thing is that Mattia Vacca has been told off, has basically been given a warning for blue flags. So we've got to just keep an eye on how Mattia Vacca defends against Luca Princi and Simone Vacirca in the dying stages of this race, because if Mattia Vacca starts to weave, then that will definitely be in the eye lines of race control's crosshairs.
I'm going to say now, I think there's going to be more contact between these two. I don't think this is going to end fully cleanly. You can see Simone Vacirca. I actually feel the most for Vacirca here, because he's just sitting behind Princi. He's had like so many opportunities to actually overtake his teammate, but he's just sitting behind. He knows he can't put off Princi, and he's got to let Princi do his thing to try to find a way through on the Bentley.
Yeah, that's true. King Phoenix's YouTube comment, absolutely hilarious as always. That's what we like about interactivity here on GTR 24H. Says about no Mickey, no, no Mickey, no, that was not so right. That sounds like something Donald Duck would say.
I mean, we have to change it from Mikey to Jon, because that is the race steward of this race. No, Jon, this is not right. We do not have to respect the blue flags.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, well, he's Italian, isn't he? So I'll change the accent. No, Jon, we don't have to respect the blue flags.
It's sort of like Fernando Alonso's ever-presence. All the time you got to leave the space. You know, comment way back when he was...
Was that Alonso who said that?
It was Alonso who said that. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I thought it was Seb.
Seb, yeah. Well, Seb, when he was with Ferrari, if memory serves me correctly.
Well,
and
actually, let's hold that thought, because Luca Princi's just gone down the inside as they're making their way down towards Well, that is down towards the Crocodiles, but around the outside, it is with Mattia Vaca who tries to hold it, but Princey's finally got it done. And now Vachirka tries to follow through as they make their way towards Cheetah Corner. And that's a Renegade car facing the wrong way, reversing across the circuit. In the process, I don't know what happened between the pair of them, but Vachirka tried his luck. Right. And he got punished for it.
Well, the thing is that just keep your eyes here. Vaca outbreaks himself through the Crocodiles. Princey gets through. Simone Vachirka comes through, and what happens next? There's a right turn from the Bentley,
get a
and it
replay.
clashes. Yeah, that. The thing was, I'll be completely honest here. Vachirka had the line going through. He had the inside line, and Vachirka has just been spun out. Don't know whether it was intentional, but if that was, I'm wondering if that is now under investigation, because that was a hard hit into the barriers for Simone Vachirka, and that has dropped him down to 9th position. And look at the front end, that's a bit of a mess right there. That clamshell's not an alignment.
And the Renegade guys have not been happy with the defending from Mattia Vaca, and they're going to be going to race control, and they're going to be demanding punishment for Mattia Vaca. And the issue is with what we saw, we don't quite see the incident itself, we just see the aftermath of it. So it's going to be one for race control to look at, but just under 16 minutes remaining now. Ahmed Hosseini hasn't had to worry about anything. 17 seconds clear of Pierluca Amato. Can anyone challenge this man? Because Ahmed Hosseini just looks a class above.
Well, when you consider the amount of hard work that Ahmed Hosseini puts in behind the wheel, like a lot of these drivers do that are professional sim racers, Ahmed Hosseini is again showing his class. I mean, Dario Barzaghi has now managed to get away from Marcello Bonacorsi to the tune of about 1.6 seconds, and climbing. You know, I think it was always going to be a case now. King Phoenix saying that there should be a 20-second or drive-through penalty. Well, the biggest penalty that can be hit, a driver can be hit with, is a stop-go 30, which is a drive-through plus with 30 seconds in the pit lane. And if you don't do that, you get an automatic, if memory serves me correctly, you get hit with the biggest penalty going on Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is 130 seconds. That's 2 minutes and 10 seconds added to your race time if you don't take the stop-go 30.
I'm just keeping a look as to how far back Mattia Traversa is from Simone Vachirka, and he is about a minute behind. Okay, it's about 55 seconds between the pair of them. So Vachirka should have his, or I should say Mattia Vaca should have his P8, or it shouldn't be affected. If he does get a penalty, he'll drop behind Vachirka down to P9, but he should be untouched by Mattia Traversa in P10.
Yeah, that's very, very true there. But with 13 minutes and 50 still to go, yeah, I really feel for Simone Vachirka, because that was so, you know, very much the case that Vachirka had the racing line going into the next right-hander. It was Simone's corner, pure and simple. And I'm not too sure whether Mattia Vaca thought, oh, he's alongside me. I've got the opportunity. He might have thought, well, Vachirka might have been slightly behind me, but Vachirka was pulling away from the Bentley, and you know, had that inside line. So it is okay.
I don't even know how they made contact.
Well, no. The thing was, when Vaca went wide coming through Crocodiles, outbraked himself.
Yeah.
Princey got through, easy as pie. Princey was anticipating, so Princey went to the outside to force a mistake from Vaca. That happened. So Princey got the switchback, got through, no problem. But it was the closing rate from Simone Vachirka that put the number 46 Aston Martin on the inside of the Bentley going through Crocodiles, coming through the exit of it. So going through turn 14 and then going into 15, which is Cheetah, Vacherka had the inside line. He was side by side, and he actually edged in front going into turn 15. And I think what I'm wondering whether Vacca's either misjudged it and he's turned right and it spat out Vacherka and put Vacherka into the barriers onto the left-hand side of the circuit.
The thing is, I just can't see that happening, because if he turns in and hits the rear end, then he had to have seen Vacherka. There's no way he can't see Vacherka.
No. But the thing is that, as I said, with regards to virtual references, you can misjudge. And if Vacca's done
Very
that,
true.
and he might have done that unintentionally, but the thing is that if you don't measure it correctly, you can incur the wrath of race control, irrespective of who you are. So we'll wait and see whether there is an in-race penalty or a post-race penalty.
Well, we might have to wait for that. To be honest, I think something should come through relatively soon. I can see Francesco Ciareddi actually in the race steward room. He's actually deafened at the moment.
Right,
so
there we go. Drive-through for Mattia Vacca has been confirmed by race control, and he's got 3 laps in which to serve it.
I think that's a deserved penalty.
Yep, slam dunk.
All things considered, it'll drop him behind Vacherka. He'll still be ahead of Mattia Traversa. And that will pretty much bring an end to all of the different battles we have out on circuit. Bonacorsi falling back from Barzaghi in the battle for P5. Luca Princi in P7. How far? He's 15 seconds behind Bonacorsi and Barzaghi. Remember when those 5 cars were all head to tail?
Yeah, line astern is the other terminology that I like to say there as well. Bit of dust being kicked up going through Cheetah ahead of Bonacorsi. So there we go, drive through now indicated on the side of the number 16 Bentley. So Mattia Vacca has got to serve that drive through penalty and serve it quickly. So a very, very much a slam dunk penalty there for Mattia Vacca. It's a shame for something like that to happen, but race control were within their rights to say, and as you said, Francesco Ciareddi in there with the race stewards arguing the case and saying this is how we see it, and race control have looked at that accordingly, and so it's an in-game penalty, which means that the race position is decided out on the track rather than post-race.
And sometimes you'll see teams trying to, argue against the penalty, try to get the penalty removed, but I'm not seeing any ballast representatives in that race control room, so I think they kind of accepted that it was coming their way, and they'll just get on with it, take the drive-through penalty, and move on with the race. Maybe Vacherka could make a mistake. Maybe Princi could make a mistake, and Vacca could find could climb back up the order. I wonder how much actually time a drive-through cost. Would it be about 20 seconds here?
Yeah, probably between 20 to 30 seconds, I would have thought, here at Kyalami. The worst one to have one at is Spa.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because you've got to go through the F1 pit lane, round La Source, and then through that way as well. And that's like a minute and 20, easy.
It's actually painful doing a pit stop at Spa. Every time I go in at Spa, because on the game when you want to do any practice, it always puts your pit box in the F1 pit lane, so you've got to do the entire run every time you want to go out of the pits, and it's honestly painful, because if your pit box is at the end, you can just reset to the pit lane after a lap and then drive back out, but nope, you can't do that. You spend about as much time in the pit lane as you do doing a lap, and that's a lap at Spa as well we're talking about. Yeah,
a big thank you also to Francesco Ciareddi, who's become the latest YouTube channel subscriber as well. So mille grazie, Francesco. The good thing is that it's nice to see people being part of the community, and a big thank you to those people who have liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel as well here at GTR24h.org. But Arash Azami says Amir Hosseini, legend. Well, at the moment his legendary status is being well and truly cemented in Season 2 of the ACC Sprint Series. King Phoenix has just come onto the YouTube chat and said, if Vaca had returned the position, he would have taken a penalty for 20 seconds, but now he will take a penalty to the extent that he loses the position. Stewards' decisions are very respectable. Thank you very much, King Phoenix, for that comment.
I actually disagree with King Phoenix's comment, and not the bit about the stewards being right, because I agree with the stewards being right.
Yeah.
But I actually think if he gives the position back to Vachirka, I think he might actually get away without picking up a penalty. I think the stewards might say, "Yeah, you made a mistake. You've given the position back. That's fair enough."
Yeah, but sometimes people can still cop a penalty for that as well. I've seen it happen before.
Very true, yeah. It depends on how bad the damage is, I think. I think if it's not that much damage on the car, then it's just a case of, okay, you lost a bit of time. It's not like you're battling any... It's one of those things, I feel, where do you give penalties based on the result, or do you give it based on the actual action?
Sometimes it can be dependent, I think, on... I think it sometimes can be down to the situation, how it's developed, how the incident occurred, and obviously what were the repercussions. But let's see if we can actually... I think we've got the updated standings now, haven't we, Yusuf?
Apparently so. So let's take a look at this. This is how your championship standings will be looking. Ahmed Hosseini, having won both races and picked up the bonus point for pole position, will be on 62 points. And it's already looking like a very nice gap that he has over Pierluca Amato. 16 points, Cataneo in P3, but I'm looking down. Where is George Boothby? Ooh, that is not a pretty look for George Boothby. All the way down in, what is that, P9?
Let's just have a look. Yeah, that's going to be, 8th position. So the DNF tonight has hit the brick quite hard, unfortunately.
And just a reminder to all of our viewers who might not know how the point scoring system works, you get a point for pole position, then your finishing order is exactly the same as how the points would be awarded in F1, plus 5 bonus points if you complete, I think it's like 50% of the race or 80% of the race. So that's why there's a lot of drivers on 5-6 points, even if they didn't finish within the top 10.
Yeah, so coming into the last 4.5 minutes, and Amir Hosseini, Yusuf, has got a 21-second advantage, and we're on to lap number 68, so I think my prediction of 70 laps, I think, might be spot on.
Yeah, perfection. It's a good look for you, Alex. It's a rather common look as well, though.
Considering with the EEWC as well coming up very soon in the next probably the next 6 weeks. So.
Well, Ahmed Hosseini, last time around, he put in a 141.9. The guy just not letting off. Let's see what it is actually this time across the line. A 141.7. You know, usually you come to the final few laps and you think, I'll just drive 95%. Don't want to make any mistakes. Don't want to throw it in a wall. Ahmed Hosseini just does the exact opposite. Says, nope, we're going to push even more. Low fuel is a chance to beat our personal best lap time.
So that's going to put us on. So now we're on 3 minutes and 26. Still to go. We're on lap number 69 of this race. So 71 laps will be the total. Because if he's running in the 141s, and he went across the line with, 3 minutes and 40 to go, so that gives you another 3 laps. Yeah, 321.56 kilometres will be completed. And that in miles is just a shade under 200 miles completed.
I tell you what, all of a sudden, Konstantin Romanenko is finding a sudden burst of pace, but I think that's a case of a little too late, as he's currently 10.5 seconds behind Cataneo, and even if he was to gain 2 seconds a lap, he still wouldn't be on the rear end of Cataneo once the checkered flag comes out.
Yeah, very much the case, and yeah, Hosseini's still pushing like crazy. And there was a sudden intake of breath there and a bit of a noise from your good self.
So, we're not done with the battling just yet, Alex, because if you look down for P10 in the final points paying position, Andrea Corti is just over a second behind Mattia Traversa and has been gaining on Traversa by a few tenths a lap. And I think we might have a little scrap, one last scrap of the race to keep us entertained.
Yes, indeed, because at the moment, Andrea Corti is closing in. That is on Mattia Traversa. That is for 10th position on the road. So it's going to be the sole Lexus RCF GT3, which has sparks flying from the rear suspension as it goes across the... that was over the outside curbing going through. I think that was going through Barbecue, and Corti again courting with the track limits going through. I think that was through Sunset and then through into Clubhouse in turns 6 and 7. But you can see in the top right-hand picture-in-picture, and then the middle picture-in-picture, you've got our top two. So you've got Amir Hosseini with Pierluca Amato. That's the top two positions as we're into the last 50 seconds.
And that means that when they cross the line, we will be heading on to our last lap of the race, and that means that for these two, on the main picture of your screen, they have 1.5 more laps to go before this race comes to a close. Well, I say 1.5 more laps. No, they're behind Ahmed Hosseini, so they've got just over a lap as they make their way into Cheetah Corner now. And this puts us in the very awkward spot of having to commentate when Ahmed Hosseini takes his win, while Traversa and Corti simultaneously potentially have their battle. 1 lap to go here at Kyalami.
Yeah, so one of us is going to have to keep an eye on the leaders, and one of us is going to have to keep an eye on the main battle on our screens, because Mattia Traversa is now only 0.4 of a second ahead of Andrea Corti, making not even that as they go through the Jux K sweep for the 71st and final time. Through into Barbecue once again, as Corti now puts the pedal to the metal in that Lexus RCF GT3, another naturally aspirated car on this grid. Closing in on Traversa as they sweep their way through Sunset Bend at turn number 6. Amir Hosseini closing in on that second victory in a row, which will give him a maximum score of 62 points and an advantage of probably, what is that, 16 points going into the next round at the Hungaroring in 2 weeks. But Andrea Corti doing everything in his power to get past Mattia Traversa as they head up the hill towards Loikop. And as the leader Amir Hosseini makes his way through the mine shaft and into Crocodiles at turn 13 for the final time. And Yusuf, I'll leave it over to you to take us to the flag with Amir Hosseini.
For Ahmed Hosseini in that BMW, it has been another perfect racer for him. Corti goes down the inside of a Traversa, down into Crocodile, but he loses the back end. But Ahmed Hosseini will have nothing of the sort as he crosses the line to take his second win of the season. Pole position, race win, fastest lap, he's taking it all. Pierluca Amato a further 20 seconds behind. Will come round to take another second place, his second best yet again for the Italian, and he'll have another 2 weeks to wait before he has a shot at picking up a win.
Yeah, so a great job there by Pierluca Amato. He's the closest contender to Amir Hosseini, Iran's favourite sim racer at the moment, doing great guns here in the GTR 24H Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. Mattia Traversa pips. Right, okay. Now, the thing is, I'm just seeing what's happening here. Right, because now, did Mattia Vaca take his drive-through?
Yes.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's fine.
The one that I'm confused by, Alex, is how is Luca Princi 6/10 behind Bonacorsi? He was about 15 seconds behind, so...
It's because Amato exited. That's why. So it's changing all the positions all the time.
Oh, okay.
So,
right.
But
I was very confused for a second.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But there you can see on the left-hand side of your screen that Amir Hosseini takes the victory after 71 laps by 24.381 seconds ahead of Pierluca Amato with... it was Alessio Cataneo rounding out the top three, with Romanenko being the last driver on the final lap of the race, on the lead lap thereof.
Well, it's been a rather spectacular race, a fun race, and a lot of battles in that race. We're going to head into a short commercial break, and when we return, we'll be having our podium interviews coming your way. Stay tuned. We'll be back momentarily here at GTR 24H.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back, folks, to the post-race show, round 2 of the Sprint Series, done and dusted here from South Africa, Kyalami. Yes, I am in South Africa. That's why it's green.
Oh dear.
I don't know. I've never been to South Africa. I assume it's green. But anyway, Alex, we had a pretty good race and we learnt a few things. So, things that we didn't learn. Armada Saini being quick because we already knew that.
True.
Pierluca Amato being second best because we already knew that. Alessio Cataneo being very good at defending because we already... Actually, we didn't learn a lot. We just had certain thoughts reconfirmed for us.
And also, we had some dynamite spatial awareness when it came to overtaking. A big thank you to Konstantin Romanenko and Marcello Bonacorsi for providing... well, also, we have to not forget about George Boothby's first lap dynamic outside overtake of all places at the Jux K-sweep at turn 3.
That was fantastic because I know we talked about the move, I think it was that Barzaghi or Bonacorsi did afterwards, and we talked about that being the move of the race. But that move from George Boothby on the opening lap was absolutely fantastic.
It was scintillating, I think, as another superlative.
Now, I'm just checking, and sadly, it does not seem that we have any drivers who are able to jump on in for an interview, which does mean that this becomes the end of the show. Now, we've got Hungaroring in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. Alex, is there anything particular that you're looking forward to seeing at the Hungaroring now that we've gone through 2 races of the Sprint Series?
Well, considering the fact we've had a bit of door rubbing and a bit of paint swapping here at Kyalami, expect more of it at the Hungaroring. It's one of the most difficult circuits to overtake at, but also it provides some really, really good challenges. You know, you've got some very technical sections. You've also got some fast corners at the Hungaroring. Plus also camber change, elevation change is another thing that you have to contend with. Not on the severity that we've had here at Kyalami tonight, but in its own right, the Hungaroring circuit is world-renowned. It's been around since the 1980s. It is a circuit that has pretty much stayed unchanged since it was incepted into the world of motorsport, courtesy of the efforts of one Mr. Bernie Eccleston when he was looking for a race in Russia. And they decided, well, let's go to Hungary. And Hungary, as a result of that, have had some great motorsport talents come out of it. The likes of Robert Michelitz, for instance, one of Hungary's favourite sons when it comes to racing. But to be honest with you, I think with what we've seen over the first couple of rounds here at Zolder and now at Kyalami, expect the ante to go up another level at the Hungaroring in a couple of weeks' time, Yusuf.
Well, guys, make sure to tune in 2 weeks' time when we head to Hungary for the 3rd round of the Sprint Series. Until then, make sure to stay fast. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye.
The GTR 24H Sprint Series Season 2, Kyalami, is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, A-Stick Sim Sport, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.